Hello! How are we all doing? Hopefully I'm live. Fingers crossed. Fingers crossed. I need to do magic things here, and then Mike'll let me know, won't you, Mike?
I will.
Fingers crossed. Otherwise, no one's hearing me. And I've got important information, haven't I?
Right, you're live.
Yay! Well done, YouTube. Well done. Didn't take that long tonight. Right, so before we get going. 1, the window is open. You may hear, well, knowing where we are, anything. Could be absolutely anything. It could be cars going past quite gently, or it could be ambulances, fire engines, or the police careering around like it's a movie. We will wait and see. Second point, I have the fan on. The fan is on the computer, keeping the computer cool. I wish it was on me, keeping me cool, don't you, Mike?
I have a fan on. It's not really keeping me cool because it's a poxy little desk fan.
It's evil here. It's evil. It is... what was it today? 84?
Something like that, yeah.
But it's 84 outside. Inside, it's criminal. Just saying. So, hopefully, I'll shut up for a couple of seconds. That'll be a blessed relief for all, won't it? And you can listen and hear if you can hear the fan. So here's a couple of seconds. Don't know if you can or not. Let me know. But either way, it's staying on. Just saying. Because otherwise the computer will die a sad death. OK, let's have a look what we've got. We have got the week at MacBites headquarters. We have a special deal that we found on TextSniper. And while researching said special deal, I found an even better one. We have an update to MediaPlace, courtesy of Carol. We have ForkLift, brand new app this week. We have some freebies that I promised a couple of weeks back. Well, I've actually found the links now, so I'll put those in. Then Mike is converting case in Excel. I do that in Raycast. I presume there's more to it.
Yeah.
Good. And then we will be configuring the Affinity apps. If you are wondering in what way, well, this computer has been sat here for the best part of 7 weeks now, and I still am trying to use shortcut keys that aren't there because I keep thinking, I'll do a demo of how I set it up, and I haven't. But today is the day. So that's what I'll be doing. So if you particularly useful if you are new to the Affinity apps, or you've got a new computer and you are trying to configure them without all the attendant grief. So that's what we have. We are broadcasting in HD. Make sure you are receiving in HD. There is a cog in the lower right-hand corner. Make sure you've got the red flash showing. And while you're down there, there is a like button, and we love the like button. So liking the video actually supports us on YouTube, because then YouTube know that you like it. Right, let's head back to last Saturday. Do you know I started the day with great plans of moving things forward? And what did I end up doing? Going back in time. Oh, the MacBites live show. So what I was actually attempting to do was add that new show, the Wonderlust show, for a week. No, it's next Tuesday, isn't it? It's not a week on Tuesday. Next Tuesday. And I realised all the rest needed updating, which got me, going back through them all. These are all the lives that we've done. These are all the Apple events that we've covered live on MacBites. I had no idea there were so many. 45 of them. The next one is going to be number 46. The very first one we did was 2010. And it was back in the day. I think that one was in Paris. Didn't they used to go to Paris in September for some music thing?
Yeah.
And it wasn't an iPhone event. It was the music event. So hence the guitar. I've no idea what was announced. It'll be on the website if you're interested. So... that was my Saturday taken care of, going to find posters and backfilling and stuff, but there they all are, ready for next week. So that took me on to Sunday, when we've been coding for the last few weeks. We were coding again. It doesn't get any easier, does it? It doesn't get any faster either. No. So where I said it was going to be 5 weeks, and then I said it's going to be a little bit more than 5 weeks, I'm beginning to think 5 months or 5 years is probably more possible. But we did take a break. Because it was match day. It was United Arsenal. And it was on the TV live. So we settled down, didn't we, to enjoy it with our popcorn. Yeah. We went 1-0 down pretty quickly. For which read 35 seconds. I won't tell you what Mike said. don't want to know. But we clawed it back and we got to 90 minutes, which was when... Do you remember James H. Reeve and the dog used to say the black-coated arbiter?
No.
Or the black-suited arbiter.
Don't remember that one.
Whose idea was it to add over 10 minutes of injury time? Our players clearly thought the match was over. Mike said this isn't going to... Well, actually, I said this isn't going to end well, didn't I? And Mike just nodded sagely. It didn't. In those 10 minutes, we went 2-1 down and then finally 3-1 down. So it didn't end well. The stats weren't any good either, were they, in terms of being accurate, etc. But I do have exclusive footage of Mike at the end of the game. Poor Mike. You weren't pleased, were you?
No.
No. And then Lola decided she wanted to go for a trot, just to add insult to injury. But we started the week. I did actually start the week incredibly well. I was ahead of myself for 2 minutes. I did my mastermind plan my week session. I don't know why I bother. Reality never much matches the plan, but there's an idea. We went and we recorded. Yes, we headed into the studio yet again. There was lots of editing required, but it meant that on Tuesday... Oh, yeah, I should be editing, shouldn't I? But how dare a new toy be released when I'm in the middle of an edit? Self-righteously indignant I was. But I have more to say on ForkLift shortly. The edit did get done in the end, and the show got released. What number are we on now? Is that 8? It's 7 or 8 consecutively. I'm not sure. What's the longest run we've ever had? I know it's in double figures.
Can't remember.
I think it's about 18 or
Something
19.
Something like that, yeah.
Yeah, fingers crossed, fingers crossed. Now, as usual, I announced this on Twitter. I know it's X, it's Twitter to me. And as usual, Jammy spotted it. He surpassed himself this week. Did you actually see it, Mike? What Jammy put?
No.
No, I'll leave it there so we can all see what Jammy put. I'm just saying at least we tempted him out of the gym. And thank you very much for the compliment on the show art. Jammy in the gym can't get out fast enough. So that took me to Wednesday. Oh, yes. After my Saturday of backfilling, I was on a roll. Wouldn't it be nice if I could move forward rather than backfilling? But I noticed something when I was sorting out the MacBites Lives, that I'd got into a bit of a rare old pickle with the Marooned at MacBites headquarters. They were all in the feed. This is the special shows since we finished. But they weren't necessarily on the website. Bad words were said. But I got it fixed. I have finally added all the shows to the feed and all the shows to the website. Why would I be doing that?
That'll please somebody.
It will, won't it? Yes, but why would I be doing that?
Why would you be doing that?
We predict a reunion show before Christmas. Just saying. So, that took me to Thursday. I did hairy, scary things on Thursday. Yes, my computer said it wanted an update. Now, it had been sat there quite happily for 32 days, not demanding an update. And when I update, I have this issue with PowerPoint, don't I? And very bad words are said. PowerPoint loses all its little silicon mind and starts putting slides on the wrong screen and stuff. But I had no choice. I did the update. And what's worse when I'm doing the update on the studio is the monitors turn off. So that was the last I saw as the monitors went to sleep. And I thought, well, it'll either come back or it won't. It's probably not taking as long as it did with the iMac, but the screen was on with the iMac. So obviously I'm sat here with a prayer mat that it actually turns back on. I know I could get behind the monitors and turn them on. But that never ends well, does it, Mike?
No.
No, I need the instruction book for the monitors, so I just leave them be. Just leave them be. Anyway, it did come back. You will doubtless, if you were with us last week, recall the fiasco of Asda. No words are required. It was appalling. So, we gave them a miss this week. It was back to Tesco. And, after their sin binning, they brought everything. Well done, Tesco. We're impressed, aren't we? Long may it last. Which took us to Friday. Now, I was up at silly o'clock, as I always am. And the day started with an iCloud issue. I don't know why I don't sound surprised, do I? Because I'm not surprised. But this time it was Goodreader. And I've no idea what the iCloud engine is not ready yet means, but it was 1 o'clock and iCloud was playing with my mind. Now, since it was 1 o'clock, I decided an early night was in order. Remember the new mantra, all together now, leave it 24 hours and it'll probably sort itself out. Update, it did, and it didn't take 24 hours. So, no sacrifices needed, to the tech gods. So I headed off to bed. It's the hottest day of the year here today, and I'm not pleased. I don't like heat of any description. And to be honest, anything in double figures is heat, isn't it? As far as I'm concerned. So why did I choose today, the hottest day of the year, to install yet another cable? I don't know, but the job needed doing. Mike missed the grand affair, which was just as well. You'd have learnt some new words. And I did need to take the screwdriver out of where it lives, so remind me to put it back. Right. That was to try and squeeze said cable behind the desk. It was a USB-C extension cable for yet another SanDisk Pro drive. But this time, when I say never again, I can guarantee it. Because every port now has a cable attached to it. Job done. No more cables are being added. By the time I'd done that, do you know what I did to make it a bit easier?
What did you do?
This is a pro tip, this. What I did was I didn't put the fan on before I started doing it. So as I was doing it, and bad words were being said, and then it wouldn't quite fit in, and then it wouldn't quite go behind the desk, I was getting hotter and hotter. But when I'd done, I could then sit down and put the fan on, and it kind of, like if I'd have put the fan on first, I would have felt hotter. Pro tip that. Yes, put the fan on last.
Shall I give you my pro tip?
Go on.
Put the fan on when you're stripping the bed and remaking it.
Oh.
That's what I did.
Oh, no, I'm not allowed to do things like that.
You did sexy cables and I made the bed.
I think my job was trickier, actually, given where the cable was going. But I did manage to get into my Mastermind Weekly Review, and I was that far ahead of myself because they gave us 20 minutes for email, inbox zero. And I've inbox zeroed for about a month now. So I had enough time to do other work while I was doing it. I quite impressed myself with that. Now, normally we get to Friday and that's it. We then start what we're doing today. But I need to move ahead by one day because tomorrow, the 9th, we have a birthday. Happy birthday, Patricia. So if you're in with us, hello. Otherwise, we'll see you on catch-up. Have a wonderful day tomorrow. Right, so, as promised, TextSniper Deal. Right, hands up in the chat, virtually, if you know what TextSniper is and if you've got it. We did do a demo. Michael find out when it was. It wasn't actually that long ago. We did a demo because Jammy said he'd not heard of it. So we demoed it. Right, I got a mail this week because the licensing changed after we demoed it. So the licensing used to be you could get a license direct from the developer, and I think that worked for one seat. Or you could get it from the App Store, and you can put it on as many Macs as you like. Right, that changed after that, and they started providing multiple licenses. So this license that's on offer is for 3 seats, and it's for $6.99. So if you don't know what it is, you can just draw a square over part of your screen that has text on it, and it will copy it to your clipboard as editable text. I use this all the time. It's great when you're in a session and somebody puts up a slide with the agenda on. Instead of typing it out or taking a screenshot and throwing that in, you can literally just draw over it and then paste it into your notes. I use the shortcut keys, but there is also a menu bar available. You can even do exactly what I've just said, but have it read to you. It will convert text to speech. One of the things I use it for on the computer is, infuriatingly, when I'm in sessions, they put barcodes up and say, that the freebie, or there's a PDF, or there's a checklist at this barcode. And I'm like, why do I want to point my phone at that and then download it on my phone so I can transfer it to my computer? Why would I do that? Just give me a link. Well, what this enables you to do is you can go into QR code recognition mode and draw over it, and it will copy the URL to your computer clipboard, and then you can just put it in a browser. It's genius. You can also scan documents from phone or iPad. And it's very simple. There's just one shortcut key to remember. Now, I did change it from Command Shift and 2 because I have 3 million different ways to take a screenshot, and I already had that allocated to something else. So it made sense to me to change it to Control Shift and T. So I made sure that Mike had his set to Control Shift and T because he can never remember what it is. And if it's the same as mine, I can tell him what it is. But you remember now, don't you?
Yes.
Because I put in there, it's the 2 on the left-hand side, Control and Shift, and T for text. It's not rocket science, is it? Now, in the App Store, it is $11.99, and the reason that it's almost twice the price is that they are aware that you can install it on multiple machines. So this deal is for 3 seats for $6.99. Now, Mike will put the links in because it got more complicated after that. This is only available for the next 20 hours or so at $6.99 for 3 seats. I did go via the App Store when it was $6.99 in the App Store, so I didn't have to worry about the licensing of it. But if for whatever reason you don't want to do that because that's cheaper and 3 is enough for you, then that is a decent deal. So Michael put the link in for that. While I was researching that, I also discovered that there was a Stack Social deal going on. And the Stack Social deal is for 1 seat. So if you only need 1 license for it, it's only $3.99. So quite a saving on that, and I can highly recommend it. You use it, don't you? Probably not as much as me.
I do. I was just using it just now.
There you go, then, you see.
Yeah.
So it is a very, very good app. Did you find the link for when we covered it?
Yes, I put it in the chat.
Oh, he's good, isn't he? He's good. Okay, so that was the first thing. Who was using that? Did we get a hands up from that? I'm seeing Deb's got a hand up. Right, next thing. There has been an update to MediaPlace. In fact, there's been a million updates to MediaPlace. They are still wading through requests, of which there have been quite a few. But we have this update, which is probably one of the most important for everybody here, which is support for Affinity files. All of them, publisher, designer and photo. So Carol let me know as soon as, so thank you for that. So I went off and I tried it. So let's do that because I was quite surprised. Why have you opened on the wrong screen? To leave me sat here looking an idiot. There we go. Right, what I've done in this is just my demo database. I created a folder for source files. And I did do this as a test, so I tested it all, make sure it all worked. You probably opened that on the wrong one. No, well done, well done. Right, so I've got some test files to drag into it. And I must admit, as I was testing it, I thought, oh, it might choke on these. And it was because these were the 3 files that I decided to test it with, 1 of each. So I've got an Affinity Publisher file, an Affinity Photo file, and a Designer file. And the one that I started with was this publisher file because it was 190 odd meg. And I thought, wonder how long that'll take. So I just dragged and dropped it in. As you can see, it stops and says, where do you want it? Well, I want it in the source files. Boom, in. And I thought, whoa, that was fast. Wasn't expecting that. So you can see it says AFPub at the top. That is a publisher file. You can in here preview it. But you don't get very far. There are things to go backwards and forwards, but I think they're between files and not pages of a particular file. So it would be nice to see all of it, but I don't think that's going to be possible. So just in the same way that Adobe work, where when the file is saved, it generates a thumbnail to represent it, I think that's how it's working. Right, the photo file, just equally as fast, which was Lola in the bin, the Apple bin, if you remember. And my designer file was a work in progress of a poster for MacBites, which was the Al Gore one. So again, you can... no, I don't want to do that. I want to select and do that. So let's go through them. And it's going through the files. It's not going through the pages within the files. But for most of the designer files and photo, I guess that would be enough. It would just be publisher, where it would be nice to be able to see more pages, but you can at least put them in there if you want to organise them that way. I must admit, I don't put my source files in any kind of database. Once I've done these, I create derivatives, and the derivatives would go in a database for the using of, but the original files are just in a folder in Dropbox. So let me know, do you put your source files in there? Now you can see, if I double click on it, it will say, do you want to open it? And I can say yes, and it will go and it will open it, and I can make some changes to it. So let's see if the thumbnail is updated. If I do that, so let's change that to orange, or even red like that. Let's do a save, because I know this is not the original. Close that down. Not getting an updated thumbnail, are we? Can I regenerate the thumbnail? Refresh the thumbnail. There we go. And you can update it that way, but it's going to be a pretty manual process, isn't it? So, do we have any questions on that? And are you liking that? Let me know.
Joe says they extended the lifetime deal for MediaPlace. They did indeed.
Yes, they did. They did take it away for all of like 5-10 minutes, and then it did come back. Now, I thought what they might do was leave it where it's not a deal for a little bit longer and then do like a big splash on Black Friday. So I don't know. I don't know what their plans are with that, but yes, it did come back. I would say by comparison to Eagle, all my stuff's still in Eagle. But I can see myself using MediaPlace for specific projects. And the rate at which they are adding features that people have requested, long may that last. Long may that last. But at the moment, I'm not in the mind to switch everything from where it is. So how I decided to use Eagle, and you could use MediaPlace in exactly the same way, but I created a database. So this is my demo database, but I also have in here the bonuses. So these are the bonuses you got when you bought the thing. I think it's 5,000 icons, isn't it? But I made a database. So instead of using one of these, I made a database that I call Work in Progress. And I just started throwing things into it. And I've been doing that for 2 years. And I've just passed 10,500 images in it. Now, they will be things like, they do not include demo files. They are posters that I've done, images that I've downloaded to use, stock images. Basically, my biggest use of it in a week is all the stuff for after hours. But I have started doing that instead of downloading things to the downloads folder. And what struck me as it passed 10,000 was, if in the 2 years prior to me using Eagle, I had 10,000 images, where are they? And I wouldn't like to say. Some of them will be in archive folders and stuff, but they wouldn't be as searchable as they would be in a database. So be it Eagle or MediaPlace or anything else, that use case is perfect. So if I need an image from 50 shows ago, it will be in Eagle. I just have to go and find it. So what else have we got, Mike?
That's it.
Oh, I see. I have to turn around because I can't see that on there. Right, let me have a look. Oh, hang on. Can I take it that way? No, that wasn't what I was trying to do. Never mind. Let me move this the other way. Right, now I can see it. Okay. Oh, pandemonium. I'm nowhere near as organised as you. My desk is tidy, but my files are a work in progress for when I retire. Well, there is some sage advice from Build a Second Brain. And I do this multiple times. So when I started, what was that file I needed off that drive?
When?
About a week ago. And I said, can you pass me number 4? Basically what happened was... I
can't remember, but I can remember the name of a file that I lost 25 years ago.
Oh, so can I, because I never let you forget it. No, what I'd done was I needed a file. And I figured that... Oh, I didn't know what it was. Wasn't it the MacBites file?
Oh, yeah.
So I looked at all my drives and I said, pass me number 4. And I was making a judgment because when my 8 terabyte drives got full, I just moved on to another one. And they're in pairs. So I said, pass me number 4. Could be number 4. And I loaded up number 4 and I took one look at it and I thought, oh no. It was before I para'd the life out of everything. And I do have a para system going on in Eagle and I would create that in MediaPlace. So I looked at this drive and thought, oh no. Now, how I would para a drive, if it was in that state, it's really simple. I unzip my para structure and I'd grab everything in the root and shove it in the archive. So there you go. That's you sorted. That's not going to take much time when you retire. Just shove everything in an archive and rely on HowDoSpot to find it. And then as you move forward, you start putting projects in the projects folder and stuff like that. But I've never not found a file. I needed a presentation last night, and I thought, well, I'll be able to know what show it was in from Vivaldi. And given that it was about Affinity, that was a really bad idea. The search in Notion is not great. But you can, in HowToSpot, search inside a presentation. So I figured there would be 3 or 4 words that would be inside this presentation on the slides. And there were URLs. So I knew they were probably going to be fairly unique as well. So I used HowToSpot and found it that way. Because Notion really isn't great for search. It's not. Okay, right. We're up to date. Right. So I'll get rid of that. And we'll go back into there. Right. Oh, this was my excitement, this one was. ForkLift. I noticed Jammy's not with us, and he was the one who was desperate for this.
Jammy popped in at the start.
Oh, and then disappeared again. He's not at the gym, is he?
I've no idea.
That gym to close on a Friday. It's not good. Right, ForkLift is an alternative to Finder. Now, if Finder's good enough, fine. But I think what you'll find with the extra features, ForkLift has features you probably didn't even know that you needed. So ForkLift has been around for quite a while. There are 3 alternative finders that are the most popular. There is Pathfinder, ForkLift, and Commander. Commander's available, I think it's only via the App Store, and there is a free version. The Pro version is £30. ForkLift, let's do Pathfinder. Pathfinder went subscription. That does not need to be as catastrophic as you would imagine. Because Mike and I were like, subscription, not happening. And last Black Friday, they had a sale. Now, it wasn't their sale. It was one of these like bundle deals where they'll charge you. You can get apps for like $3.50, $4. If you spend less than a certain amount, they will put like an admin charge on it. I can't remember if we wanted anything else or not. But Pathfinder itself was about $5. And even if there was an admin fee, it would have been no more than $5. So instead of paying $30 odd for a year or 18 months, we ended up paying like $5. And we did exactly the same with BusyCal, didn't we? Which is another subscription. So just because it's a subscription, don't dive into it if you're in any way uncertain. But if you keep your eye out, you may find it cheaper. Now, ForkLift, not in that market at the moment, because this is a brand new version. So they let us know that it had arrived. Now, it had been in beta for a while, but they sent an email out and said it had arrived. So I'm doing a mental calculation for this is probably going to be subscription of some description. And I noticed that at the bottom when it says to celebrate this release for a limited time only, didn't say how long, we're offering an incredible deal. With each new license, enjoy an additional 100 days of free updates. So I thought, okay, it's time limited. It's not, well, there are as many subscriptions as there are apps. And this sounded like one of those where you got updates for a certain amount of time. So my first mission was to head off and find out how often do they update these things. So it was first released in June 2007. And I remember before its release, it was in beta for a long time and people were saying how fantastic it was. I found it a bit of a hybrid. Pathfinder was more powerful, but ForkLift had the benefit of FTP connections. The next version was just over 3 years later, but then there was a gap of 7 years. And there's been a gap of 6 years between version 3 and version 4. So I'm not really surprised they're trying to charge by the year, are you, Mike?
No.
No, that makes total sense, doesn't it? So this was ForkLift 4. Now, the problem was, as I'm reading about it, I go and have a look how much it's going to cost. And you had to make a decision between 1 year of updates and 2 years of updates. Well, 2 years of updates were cheaper per year than 1. So that to me was like, well, you would go for 2 years. But then there was a problem as I'm scrolling through the page. I thought, where's the discount for previous users? They'd completely missed that. They'd completely missed that on Tuesday. By Thursday, their inbox was overflowing with people disgusted. So they added in another discount. So this was the page, and I've done this so you don't have to. Right, I clicked on 2 years of free updates, and it gave me the 3 options. Now you can see it's got an upgrade button. Now that upgrade button wasn't there until last night because they had to find a way to accept your previous license and then apply that to the new version, and they hadn't thought of that, not built it in. Yeah. They also came back with a grovelling blog post, but I'll save that for MacBites. So I put in my license key for version 3, and that's why you can see the upgrade buttons. It was at the bottom of there, and you had to put your key in, and then it checked it for eligibility. Now, the interesting thing as far as I was concerned was I didn't want a single user license. I wanted the one for the family. That way Mike could use it too. So the one said for personal use on your Mac, and it said singular. Now, I'd just done another license check with another company, and their single user license was for all your Macs. So this one looked like it was for one. Now, the family one in the middle is all the Macs in your household. So that was obviously the one for us to go for. I was concerned that my license key, where it says it's eligible for an upgrade, wouldn't be eligible for the family upgrade because I didn't already have the family license. But I did the deed and I confirmed that it was. So I did get 100 days of free updates in addition to the 2 years. And then I got another 100 days. So that was what they decided to do. And the rationale was it's equivalent to a 54% discount. If they give you 200 free days of updates beyond your 1 year or your 2 year, it's equivalent to a 54% discount. Why they don't just make life simple, but that's how it is. So I decided, didn't we say it worked out 50p a week or something?
Something like that.
And then less than that with the 200 days free. The only thing that I find a bit bizarre is I can't see when the date it's actually due. So I'd have to calculate that and then put a note in 1Password with it. But that's all the bad news. That's what it's going to cost you at the beginning. But it is an amazing app, so let's go and have a look at it. Do we have any questions about purchasing, etc. before we do?
No, not at the moment.
Okay. So, this is what it looks like. Now, it didn't look like that. Well, let me sort myself out. Right, it looked like that. Right, so, first thing with it is, it's a dual pane browser by default. You don't have to have it that way if you don't want, but if you do, then you will love the fact that that's it by default. So, we will go through, where am I here? Is that not updated? Crying out, there we go, that's better. Right, so we've looked at the releases, we know the pricing. Let's move on and actually look at this. So on the sidebar on the left, instead of it just being devices, you have devices, you have shares. So I'm not sure if I do have shares. That's the machines that are turned on at the moment, so I'm not interested in other machines, but you can see those. You have favourites. And I've edited these favourites a little bit in a couple of ways. Okay. I've added stuff. So I've just added the Dropbox folder, the root of the Dropbox folder. But up to iCloud Drive, those are standard. So my user folder and the desktop, documents, downloads, applications, pictures, and iCloud Drive, they were the defaults. I have added in others. But the other way that I have edited this, good catch, Renee, with Commander Pro being on setup. ForkLift was on setup, but when I checked, it was only showing version 3 and not version 4, so I don't know if that's going to continue to be on setup or not. But the second way that I edited this was the downloads. You can see that the downloads, I've made it green. One of my bugbears with Apple drives me absolutely insane. If we have a look at this, They used to have coloured icons for all of these folders. Oh, it was great. And then they took it away. And the downloads doesn't even have a different icon like it used to. And the downloads used to have a kind of circle with a down pointing arrow in white on green. It was just instant that was where it was. And I think they took it out about 2011, didn't they? And we were all like, oh, they'll bring it back. They'll make it an option. No. No, they don't. So I thought it would be great, as far as I was concerned, if I changed the colour of the download icon to green, and then it would stand out. That one change is genius. I've also got in here, you can see I've got favourites. So you can have favourites in Finder, as you've just seen. Let's take that full screen. My favourites are at the top in here. Now, I think previously I had iCloud Sharey stuff at the top, but I moved that out of the way. But those are your favourites. The thing is in here that makes it infinitely more usable is, yes, I have favourites, and I can fold those up. Those are my favourites. But you're not limited to one set of favourites. That's what I've got down here. I have my MacBites favourites and I have my After Hours favourites. Also in here, we are not just looking at folders. You could also add a file. But I have workspaces and I have remote connections as well. So all of that is accessible from that sidebar. We'll go through that in more detail. Then I have the two panes. So one of these is looking at my external drive. The other one is looking at my other external drive. They are twins of each other. Despite the fact I've put that in there and it probably needs to go over there, and I would put no, I would put that out of the way. So let's pop those up there out of the way, and that is normally what that would look like. I have put a demo folder on there to show you how that actually works. So these are showing you the drives themselves. Then you have a toolbar at the top. Now, yours may not look like mine because I have edited that to add stuff. I was actually quite surprised at the stuff that wasn't there, because I thought there are some things that were there that, yes, make total sense, but there were some that, if the button's not there, I guess you just have to learn the shortcut key, but you might as well do that and put the buttons on there. So that may not look quite like yours. Then you have the search, which will filter your files. So if I go into here, those were my 3 demo files. If I go up there and do a search and put Apple, it filters to files that have the word Apple in them. And then you clear that and it will bring that back. You also have over here, on the right-hand side, a preview. So if I click on these, you can see that that preview that we could see in MediaPlace is also available in ForkLift, because, as I said, when these files are saved, it generates a thumbnail. So all of those are available for preview on the right-hand side. Now that's the default view, so let's go for that one. That's the info view over there, but you can also see activities if you have any activities, and you can see warnings here. So this is like a history of what you've done, and you can clear that history and go back to here. So that's what you've got on the right hand side there. Don't know why I needed to click that twice. So that's pretty much the interface. Now again, I have made some changes to this. So one of the things that I wanted to change, I have this on all of them. By default, you do not have alternating lines, but if you look in Finder, I have alternating lines. So I wanted that, and I found that in the settings. So the settings are quite extensive. Right, let's take a look at those at the moment. So first off, you have General at the top, and you can decide what the starting directory is. Now, I've made the decision on this machine, purely practical. I am not going through the pain of backing everything up. And now I'm talking data, not settings, backing data up from a million different places on my main hard drive. So I'm only putting files into the downloads folder. And the logic of that is, you know, Dropbox is backing itself up. And if I download something, it goes into the downloads folder. So I might as well just use the downloads folder and then take everything out of there at the end of the day. So that's what I'm doing, and that's why it's pointing to the downloads folder. You then have the option to restore tabs on startup, which makes total sense to me. So that's enabled as well. Now, I think I changed one thing in here, but the confirmation for drag operations, I don't want to be bothered saying yes, yes, yes every time I drag a file. So I turned that off. Then you've got detect application when deleting. So if you try and delete an application, it will say this is an application. Do you want to delete the associated files with it? And it doesn't mean your data. It means configuration files. Then you can choose to handle archives with ForkLift. Now that's actually quite handy. So let's have a look what that does. So in here, if I grab these, I can choose in there to compress those, and I get this temporary file at the bottom as it's compressing it. Once it's compressed, I get archive.zip. If you look over at the preview, it is actually giving you a preview of what is inside that. Now that is definitely worthwhile, because the only other way to do that, if you were in Finder and you wanted to do that, you would need Better Zip, and Better Zip isn't cheap. It's great, but it's not cheap if the only thing you want to do with it is that. Now what you can do with Better Zip, I think this is still the case, is you can install Better Zip, use the trial, and at the end of the trial, while Better Zip won't run, the preview will. But to have it neatly in this window is a good idea as far as I'm concerned. You can also, in ForkLift, press the space bar and you see you get that as well. So that is the archive feature. So let's get back into here. Right, do you want to treat archives as folders? No, I don't. If I zip something, I don't want it treated as a folder. I want it treated as an archive. So to me it's a zip, and I can preview it anyway, so I'm quite happy with that. But if you're working with a lot of zip files, so particularly if they came from a client, you had that, have you? They sent me all the files, each one was zipped individually. Oh, good job I've got Better Zip. But if you're working like that, then it might be an idea to turn it on and then turn it off later if you need to. Right, you can choose your terminal app, so you've got a whole different range of terminal apps and tools to compare. So I think I do have an old version of Kaleidoscope, but the price was eye-watering. Literally like £130 or something, so I'm quite happy to use the basics. I do remember when I installed this, there was an option to sync the favourites to iCloud. Now there's two purposes to that. One is, because I've got a licence that I can install it on all the Macs in the house, they would synchronise. That sort of makes sense if the favourites are not local. But if the favourites are local, that makes no sense at all. So I thought I'll turn it off. I did consider the second purpose of having my favourites in iCloud, which is just to back them up. If anything did happen to the machine, I needed to rebuild it, I would not need to reset them all. I turned it off. It turned it on, so I just left it. New mantra, leave it 24 hours. If anything's on fire, fix it then. So I do have that backing up to iCloud, but the bird seems quite happy at the moment. Touching wood, touching wood. And then to check for updates automatically. So I figured I would do that because it's new and there's bound to be a few issues with it. Right, the next option you've got in here is for shortcuts, and they pride themselves on the fact that there's virtually a shortcut for everything. And I must admit, I don't know what they are. Now, if I'm going to use this primarily instead of Pathfinder, then I will learn them, and I will set them to what makes sense to me, and you can do that. If you are setting them by something else, you can always restore the defaults, and you can search through here to find the command. One of them, which was the one I was looking for, was it sync something? Yeah, there's already two shortcut keys, so I would just need to know what they were. Right, then there's transfers. So this is when you're transferring to mainly online services. What do you want to happen? Do you want to ask about replacing? Do you want to skip it? Do you want to replace it? Replace the older one? Do you want to keep both? You can set that up and then it won't need to ask you. I always prefer to be asked with that. I'm not limiting the upload and the downloads, and I'm not doing anything else with that. So I didn't make any changes in there. Now, these are more advanced options for tools. Tools and editing are very similar. You can tell it that if you've got a text file, you want it to be edited with Cut Editor or a different editor. So those things you can set up. The last one in here that's going to be of immediate use is the themes. So I left this at a default, apart from tweaking very little of it, so I could demonstrate it as is. But there are a whole range of themes here. So that is actually the default. I think it had a light default before, but then this says dark, although it didn't look dark to me. They looked identical in the preview over here. There's then this light view and this ForkLift, which was the default. Then there was some others. So there was a blue one, which isn't actually as blue as the other blue. I wondered what Dracula would do, but pretty much it just changed this to lime green. Commander is so it looks like Commander, the one that I talked about at the beginning here. So if you particularly have been using Commander and you would like it blue, you can do that. The one that I thought was the absolute worst was this sand thing. I mean, what is that? It doesn't even look like sand to me. It's more... Oh, mind you, all our cars are covered with that sand, aren't they? Flew in, apparently, from the Sahara. But I didn't like that at all. But the good news is that you can click on plus. It will duplicate the one that's selected. So in this case, sand gives you a really different name of sand too. And you can then go in here and make changes to it. So if the base colour was a bit yucky, like we could make that a bit darker like that. And you can actually see that in real time. So, I mean, who doesn't want it green? But you can do that if you want. So if you do want it to look a particular way, then you can go in and you can edit that to your heart's content. I'm just going to cancel that because that's terrible. I'm going back to the default ForkLift one, which is the one it ships with and the one that is enabled by default. So those are the settings that you have in there. Oh, but there's so much more to it. So these files that we've got in here, what we've looked at is the interface, but not the options for the interface. So on the toolbar, and this is not one that I added, these are there by default, you can have that set to thumbnails. You can have it set to list. I always work in list mode, but that's just me. You can have columns. So if I went back, I think I probably need to go up to show that. You can move that so you can read them. And then you can go by clicking on there and then it opens up the next one and so forth. You use column view, don't you, in your save dialogues?
I do.
I've never used that. Could never get on with it back in the beginning, so I just turned it off. But it's there if you want it. And then you have the ability here to, well, let's get that back to a list view for a start. And then in there it says by none, you can choose by kind, and it will group them. You see it now says folder. Obviously it would make much more sense if we had some files. Let's go in there, and it shows you designer files together, photo files together, and so forth. So that is a way to group them. You could do that via when they were modified. They were all modified today. When they were added, I think they were all added today as well. Or if you've got any tags on, you can do it and it says no tags, but you could put tags on it. So if we took that one and we made it green, I did notice with this, this clearly needs an update. Because although that has a green tag, and it says there it's got a green tag, I don't see the green dot. But if I take that and I put it somewhere else, boom, the green dot appears. If I drag it back over there and let's replace it, do I get a green dot? There I do. I get a green dot there. So there we go. But that might not appear automatically. Let's take this over so we can see those as well. Right, so those are to do with the view options you've got. Oh, Renee always uses column view. Just me then, really. I can see the logic of it. I don't know why I don't. It just doesn't. It's not logical to me. But there you go. I can understand it. Maybe my files are either too deep down or not deep enough. I find with these favourites over here, I can get to exactly what I want without navigating through columns, so I don't.
In Finder, I use list view.
Again, I've always used list view in Finder. The only time I ever change that into the thumbnail view is with my data for demos. And it's just easier to eyeball while I'm working. So with it being on a 32-inch screen to my left-hand side, I can instantly just glance at it, which is easier than list view. But different cases for different jobs. So let's turn that off to none, because we don't want them grouped. Right. The other things that I have added on here, so we've gone through all of those, we've gone through the themes. For a start, let's look at the connections. So by default, in your Finder, without any extra software, let's move this over, you can connect to your drives. So where it says locations, Destiny's the machine, these four are the drives, and these are what's on the network and my poorly iMac. Okay, so you can see your locations. You can see iCloud because obviously that's a special thing with Apple. But with no extra software, you can't connect to cloud services. Now, obviously, I've got my Dropbox folder there. That's because I installed the Dropbox client. But this time I took the decision not to install the Google Drive client. I remember installing it, and I was using primarily Google Drive for storage at the time. I didn't have that much storage on Dropbox. I think I had about 3 or 4 gig that I got free for referring people back in the day. But if I wanted pCloud, then I had to install the pCloud client. And if I wanted Box, I had to install the Box client, and so forth. And I just felt, particularly when I set up a new machine, Google Drive is no longer a primary storage for me. If I'm using it, excuse me, if I'm using it, it will probably be for Google Drive files, particularly Sheets. And I can't open those locally anyway. So it didn't really make much sense to bother installing it, because every time I changed my screen from full 4K res down to what I broadcast, which is 1920 by 1080, Google Drive would go mad and start showing me dialog boxes. And I'm like, what for? Why are you showing me dialog boxes when all I've done is change the resolution of the screen? So what I decided to do was not install that, and I would use it in a browser. But as you can see here, if you do a comparison, I do have Google Drive and I do have OneDrive, and I don't have either of the clients installed for Google Drive or OneDrive. That is where ForkLift has features that Finder can only dream of. So what I did with that was I added Google Drive as a storage location, and I added OneDrive. And yes, I did need to go through it and say, new connection. And I have not, with this, I shut ForkLift down. So I've not prepped this in any way. So don't let me down. Do not let me down. But if I click on Google Drive, you can see how fast it is. That connected. So now I have a connections section in here. So I have in here the connection for Google Drive. And that was how fast it connected. To be honest, that's faster than the native client, isn't it? Mm. And it's only live when I'm in ForkLift. But that is brilliant as far as I'm concerned. Exactly the same with OneDrive. So if I click on OneDrive, it connects, and now I've got access to all of those files. So you'll see they're all parrot to within a certain degree. So apps, documents, pictures and shared, I can't change. If I could, I would. They wouldn't be there. On my Google Drive, there's some here. Oh, look, there's my spreadsheet that I was working through with the marooned episodes. So that would get put in the inbox. That's where it needs to go. But public, shared with me. Yeah, I've got application support, the black hole, public and shared with me, that are outside Para. But the ability to connect to those is fantastic as far as I'm concerned, because I don't have to have the client installed. Now, I do need to point out at this point, because I know a lot of you have pCloud space. If you have the pCloud client installed, you will be able to connect to pCloud. I chose not to install that. Didn't it need some incantation where you turned off SIP and sacrificed a chicken? Yeah. So I decided not to bother. I have been able, with pCloud and, what was the other one? pCloud and Box. I have been able to connect with WebDev. I came to do that in ForkLift and it's not having it. Bit of research, and Box have said they've deprecated it, haven't they?
Yeah.
What is wrong with pCloud, I have no idea. So more investigation needed there. But I could not get it to connect with the credentials that I know were working on my other machine. So I know that the password's correct, I know the URL is correct, and everything like that. Okay, we have a question. What do you use the black hole for? Oh, Richard.
The legendary black hole.
The legendary black hole, Kim's favourite. Right, way back in the day, before networking really, necessarily, there was an app, and it was called, what was the app called?
Drop Copy, wasn't it?
Was it Drop Copy?
I think it was
Drop Copy Pro. Yes, that comes to mind. It was an app that you installed, and it put a physical black hole, it looked like an icon of a black hole on your desktop. And what you were able to do with it was to drag a file over this icon and it would send it to a pre-configured location. It was genius for Mike and I to just, hand off a file to each other quickly. We don't want to email it. We don't want to Dropbox. We just want to drag and drop it. And the app died a sad death. So there you go. Everyone must have at least one. Thank you, Kim. So what we decided to do was recreate it. And we went through iteration after iteration of it. And the final iteration that we have now is actually on Dropbox because both of us have 3 terabytes of storage. This is an archive one on Google Drive. But what it is, we use an app called DropZone. So if I show you what DropZone looks like, right, it sits up there and there's drops for Mike. And if I want to send a file straight through to Mike, I drag and drop it to that folder, just to that icon. So I will take that and I will do that. And that is now on its way to Mike. You see the speed of that, and now it's in Mike's black hole. I can also use DropZone to send a show up to MacBites or send it to the newsletter assets or use AirDrop. But this is the black hole. So mine goes to Mike and Mike has one of these and it comes to me. So what that actually looks like, not on Google Drive, but what it looks like, the real one is Dropbox and it's in my resources, black hole. There's the drops for me, there's the drops for Mike, and this is the configuration, which is the icon. So that is what the icon looks like, and that is how we use it. So what we've done with it, in the event that Dropbox stops working, because, that stuff happens, I left it as it was on Google Drive. But we have had that on multiple locations. We've had it locally. We had it on a pen drive hanging off the back of an Apple Airport. We had it on, what was that drive called that was pink?
Oh, I can't remember.
It was a device that you bought. And
something plug, wasn't it? Pogo plug.
Pogo plug, that's the one. Pogo plug. It was a drive that gave you an interface to your local files when you were out and about, called Pogo plug. We had it on there at one point. But it's the same system, but it's iterated and iterated and iterated. We did do a whole show on it. Kim set up hers after that, I think, so maybe Mike can find it.
Patience says that she doesn't think it speaks to Windows, so it wouldn't be useful for her at the moment. But if you had a cloud service and you just set up a shortcut on your desktop of the Mac and the desktop on Windows, surely that would work.
The rest of the family are running Windows laptops. It would work. It would, because the file is going. Oh, Renee's got a Pogo plug. Was it the black one or the pink one? Mine had a pink edge on it, but I think it was black. No, it will work if they've got Windows laptops. All you need is some cloud. Shall we put it down for next week? Okay. How we get it to work on Windows. But all you would need is a cloud service that they have access to. So you could create a shared folder that everybody has access to, and within that folder, each person would have a folder of their own, and then when you come to send something to them, you just drag it to the icon that represents their folder. What they wouldn't have DropZone, but I'm sure there's something similar. But we'll do it next week. I will show you how to set it up for Windows. And Kim can just sit back and enjoy just watching the black hole again, because I know you love that. So do I. Okay, so let's get back to where we were here. You can connect to an SMB server. I put SMS, but I don't know whether I meant SMB. I think you can connect as long as you could see it. But yeah, I will think about that in the week, Patience, but I'm sure it can be done. I don't see any problem with that at all. I would have to find an app on Windows that made it easy for them to transfer it up there, but I don't think that would be not doable. Let's put it like that, because it's just a shortcut. So you would just have to have a little folder full of shortcuts. It's doable. Trust me, it's doable. Right. So I did connect these two things up to it. Now, another reason it will connect to Dropbox. So really, I wouldn't need the Dropbox client either. But Dropbox is my primary system, so I left that alone. But Mike has his Dropbox, and I think my father had a Dropbox, didn't he, that we put maps in. So I've probably still got that kicking around somewhere. The beauty of using connections in ForkLift versus installing the client for Google Drive or OneDrive is that I can connect to multiple Google Drives and multiple OneDrive. accounts. Now, OneDrive give you, is it 6? 6
Yes.
users.
6
Each user gets a terabyte of cloud storage. But you can only access one of those accounts by installing the client. But in here, I could connect to all 6 and use that extra space. So the way that they've set up the connections, as far as I'm concerned, is absolute genius. Love it. Now, those connections are connections to cloud services. I also have other connections here. So in the MacBites thing, we have the MacBites Studio. That is just a folder. We have MacBites Shows, and if you look at the icon, and I know it's really tiny, there's an A on it. The MacBites Shows are hosted on Amazon S3. So if I click on that, it's going to connect to Amazon S3. You can see it's gone to macbites.co.uk. You have to type it out. Do you remember when we didn't? Oh, and there's the shows. So if I want to upload another show, there's the 2 that went up this week. You can see that on Tuesday. All I need to do is drag and drop them into that folder, which is so much easier than using an FTP client. That's a file transfer protocol client, which means you've got to open it, you've got to find the connection, you've got to double click it, you've got to wait for it to connect, then you've got to navigate to the folder. Just see how fast that was. It's instant. And this one, which is macbites.co.uk shows, I also have newsletter assets, and that is also, these are all the newsletter assets we've used over the years. That is also on macbites.co.uk on S3, but this one is in the newsletter assets folder. So it's just so much faster. Right, if I click on one of these, it will preview, even though that is not a local file. It's in the cloud. All of these are in the cloud. So you can see it takes a fraction of a second longer to load it in, just because it's in the cloud, but I can get a preview, and you can get a full preview of that as well. That is such a huge time saver. So the way S3 works, you only pay for the storage you use. So I just upload what we need, and we must have saved thousands since we moved off that podcasting service. We were paying £30 a month to have the podcast hosted. The bill for S3 last month was £6. And there's a heck of a lot more files up there now. So we're saving about £25 a month by doing that. But it's easier to do that with other files if you've got direct access to it, and that is what ForkLift gives you. Direct access to your S3 files. The other ones I've got in here are the Maroon shows. So obviously I've been working on that this week, putting the last ones up. All of these down here went up this week. So yeah, the others went up in March. I just didn't do the very last one. That went up on Wednesday. So there that is. So having direct links to these over here is such a time saver. The other stuff I've got in there are just folders. So the after hours stuff for tonight's show next week, the week after, and the week after that, and PowerPoint, where the PowerPoint files live, which is just a folder with all my PowerPoints in it. That's it. You should notice from this that one difference, and I don't see an option for it, unless it's hidden in views or something. Let's have a look. I am not... Oh, is it sort by? Nope, that's name. And that's none. What I'm looking for is, if you look at that, all of the folders are at the top. So these two, the slide library and the extra slides, should normally be further up the top. Because if we looked in Finder, Finder sorts alphabetically. It does not put the folders at the top. Windows puts the folders at the top. So do you leave yours at the top? It's something you can change in Pathfinder, and I'm wondering if you can change it in here, because I'm not used to seeing that. It threw me when I moved to a Mac that they were in alphabetical order, and now it throws me when the folders are at the top. But that's one thing to think about. But they are just folders down there. Now, I've mentioned that the default is a dual view, which it is. And in the view, you do have an option in there to show one pane. So if you do that, it only shows one pane. So you could have that replacing the Finder, as it were, where there's just one folder. Renee says folders need to be on the top always. I think if you know that that's where they are, But I'm so used to the default Mac way. I think they look neater at the top. Absolutely they do. But it's not what I'm used to. Now, this single view, there is a shortcut so you can toggle it. So it is Command, Option and P, and it will show you another pane over here. Now, in addition, so let's get these so they are at least similar with those two drives. Right, oh, did I still have you in there? You were supposed to be going up there, weren't you? Right, if in here, it's nice having two windows, dual pane. But what is even better is if you Command and T, you will get two tabs. So now over this side, I have two tabs. Now, obviously, at this point, there is... Where can we go? Where can we go? Let's go back to the posters in one of them. So there's my MacBites posters. Now I'm flicking between an external drive and the posters folder. And you can either use the plus at the end, or you can use Command and T to make more of those. So you can have a range of windows open. Tabs open. Where this makes sense as far as I'm concerned is to have a set open. So rather than just randomly, another one, another one, another one, which I would do if the work I was doing was ad hoc. If I didn't have a plan or anything, then that is what I would do. But the times that I need to work with multiple tabs, I can pretty much predict what those tabs are. And that's where another feature of this comes in. So let's now get on to what you can do having had multiple tabs. So let's have a look at what we've got there. I've got all of these pointing to the posters folder, and I've got two over here. And I said to you that the sidebar on the left-hand side, you can do more with it than just go to Dropbox or go to a folder or go to an online service. If you look in the MacBites section here, you can see this says MacBites Workspace. When you look at the icon, it's not a folder, it's not Amazon, it's not Google Drive, it's not OneDrive. It looks like a dual pane icon. If I click on there, what it will do, the reason that it's not quite in the middle is because I've shrunk the screen down. But what it's actually done here is it has my audio hijack folder there. It has my inbox in the MacBite Studio. It has my publishing suite. So that folder has in it finished shows that are to be uploaded. Over this side, it has the shows. So if this was a MacBites, I would just drag, drop, boom, it's uploaded. And then also in my publishing suite, I would have anything that needed to go up for the newsletter, and I could just drag and drop that over. And again, that would then be uploaded. So those are the 5 tabs that I always want open when I'm editing a MacBites, and I can save those. So let's do that so you can see it. So let's take all of this back. It's not going to overwrite that saved setting. That saved setting is there. If I go back to it, there we go. There's the settings. But we will get rid of them, and we will end up with just 2 tabs there. Right. So let's say that I'm working on some shows, and I want access to my, let's say, downloads folder. Got my downloads folder there. There it is. I probably, to be honest, would want that over that side. Now, I added this button to swap the panes around, so now my downloads are over on this side, which is great. So I want my downloads folder. It is a workspace, Renee. That's exactly what it's called. Hence me calling it MacBites Workspace, which we will see how to create when I have done this. So I do want my downloads folder. I may want my desktop folder. Don't know why I would want my desktop folder. Don't put anything on it, but let's just assume that we do. So there's the desktop. And Command and Tab again for a 3rd tab. And let's say on that one, I know I'm going to want access to Google Drive. And then on this side of it, and there is no right and wrong as to which sides go on it, but if I'm sending it somewhere, it's probably going to be on the right-hand side. So over there, I might decide that I want my shows and my newsletter assets. Oh, and over on this side, I want another one, which is my posters. So there's my posters. No, hang on, we'll have maroon shows on that one. Right, I think we've got everything that we need now. So I've got 4 folders over on the left-hand side and 2 folders on the right. And let's say this is a particular job. So we'll call this one marooned. It's not marooned, but we will. Right, so what we've got in here, we just need to save that. So in here, we have a whole range of where we can save it. Where did it disappear to? Right, so we'll look at favourites in a second, but below the favourites you have the opportunity to save the workspace. Now you also can see here that you've got the opportunity to update the MacBites workspace, and the reason that it's listing that there is because that was the workspace that I applied to it. But I want a completely new one, so I'm going to save that and call that Marooned at MacBites Headquarters. Now, then, something that we're going to come on and look at, instead of just having one group of favourites, you have multiple groups of favourites. So there's favourites, there's MacBites, and there's after hours, and that's what you can see on the left-hand side. And this one would go in MacBites, and I would click Add, and it would appear at the bottom. I can then switch between my MacBites workspace and my Marooned workspace that quickly. So the workspaces are such a time saver, but to make them even better is the fact that they're available from the sidebar on the left hand side. If you had to navigate to the workspaces, I think you'd probably be less inclined to do it. The way that this enables you to organise content is that the workspaces can be where they're most useful. They're not isolated in a silo, a workspace silo of their own. They're where it makes sense. So for instance, let's take that MacBites workspace here, and we will get that snapped to the middle. Let's say that we did want to update that in some kind of way with what we've done. You would apply it in that kind of way, and then you would be able, in your favourites up here, to update that. So now, instead of resizing it correctly every time I use it, I switch between them, it's correct, so I can update that. But another use for this is, so we'll go back to the MacBites workspace. I'm pretty confident if I fold these up, because I literally do not need to see them, I don't want to focus on these. If I go in and update that, and then I switch to that, are you going to do that for me? I am not sure if you are. That did work in rehearsals. It's not doing now. I thought you could fold these up. Maybe there's another option I need to look at for that, but you can fold them up and focus on just MacBites work. So if I'm working on after hours, I have no need to see the stuff for MacBites. I'm just looking at these folders down here. That means I could have many more in here, so up to sort of 15 maybe, that are the locations I need, but by folding up the others I can concentrate on that. Absolutely love that feature. Alex has asked why she's not at the upgrade deal. Well, if you go to the website, it's just available underneath the pricing. There is an option to enter a key. If you had version 3 or earlier, it didn't make... They weren't detailed as to which one. But yes, I don't think they've covered themselves in glory with how they've launched it. It's a great app, but as per usual, it feels like smoke and mirrors. How many people would buy it without anything extra is how it feels, which we don't like. We don't like that. Right, so let's open these up and show you how they are working. So let's say in here, I need to get to somewhere we've not been before. So let's go to in here into this demo folder. So let's say that demo folder, I want to add it to the favourites. All I need to do is to go up to favourites. You can actually see in here that you've got the favourites that you can navigate to, grouped by the group. But you can also add to favourites, and because I have more than one set of favourites, it says which group do you want them in. So if I want that demo in the MacBites one, I can type a different name for it, or I can just hit add, and it will add it at the bottom. Now at that point, then I would have to think about, do I want to update the workspace or not? But at this point, what we're looking at is the fact that favourites don't all need to be grouped together into one favourite. So you can have multiple groups of favourites, and within there you can have workspaces, which is just a great way to work. Alex, if you bought it the other day, no, it wasn't available. What they are intending to do now is when they bring out the next update, there will be the ability within ForkLift, so I presume you would go up here into settings somewhere, and they are going to add in the ability for you to enter your previous license key, and then they will give you the extra 100 days. I just wish they'd tell us what date it was due. That would suit me nicely, as it does under about. Oh, there you go. Eligible for updates until March 2026. So that's where it shows you. That's where it is. And you can see we do have a family license. So that's where it is. So I'm quite happy now. So I would imagine it's possibly going to be on there then, but you will get it. They did say that in the blog post. Okay, so we've looked at tabs, workspaces, favourites. A couple of other things to look at. Some of my favourites. So what I'm going to do here is simplify this so we are only looking at 2 drives. So let's get rid of all of those, and the drives that I'm going to be looking at is my Extreme Pro and my Extreme Pro Backup. Right, and what I'm going to do, you can see here that obviously these drives are supposed to be twins. They are backups of each other. But as I'm working through the day, obviously I've got files that have been put in this drive but not the other one. So for instance, these are actually backed up at the moment, they are there, but I'm just going to delete them. And I'm going to show you 2 things at that point. Right, the first is here. Carol's loosening the wallet there. I'm liking that. I'm liking that. It is pretty useful. It really is. I mean, when I downloaded it, one thing I didn't like about the trial was that every 2 minutes it was, this is the trial version, click OK. This is the trial version, click OK. Give me a trial. Do not give me a nag fest. Because I was thinking, this was Tuesday night, you've not contemplated upgrading. You'll backtrack on this. It'll probably take 24 to 48 hours. So I thought, I'm not buying right now. So bang on time, 48 hours later, oh, we're so sorry, we forgot that. I thought, grand. And at that point I thought, right, well, now it's confirmed, I'll buy it. And I did last night because I said to Mike, I can't take this nag screen anymore. I don't think, you could give somebody 7 days without a nag screen, couldn't you? Because otherwise it's unusable. But what I did was I sorted these 2 drives out. So what I'd done this week, as I mentioned earlier, I got a cable and I installed the second drive, and then I needed to make sure that it was backed up. And this made that a whole lot easier. So I'll show you in what way it made it easier. So these drives are twins of each other. They are not quite twins at the moment, but they should be. Does Pathfinder have something like workspaces? Really has me considering ForkLift. Steve, it does, but the way that it does it, I just can't get it to work. I can't get it to stick. You can create tab sets and you can create different sidebars. I just can't get it to stick. I seem to have to apply like 3 things to get back to where I wanted. So what Pathfinder doesn't have is the ability for the multiple favourites on the left and the ability to put the workspaces in the groups, and the workspaces work. And of course what you can do is, we've been working one-dimensionally at the moment. We've got the sidebar and we've got the 2 panels, the dual panel, but nothing to stop you getting an entirely new Pathfinder window and then loading in one of these workspaces or loading in one of the other workspaces, and now you can have multiple workspaces. So if you are blessed like I am with the 3 monitor setup, oh, it's heaven. You can have workspaces on different screens. So while it's there, I can't get it to work, and neither can Steve. So yeah, it should work. It doesn't, I'm afraid. The only way I've managed to do it, and again, it's too many steps, is instead of trying to use a workspace, next to it in Pathfinder, next to the tabs, you can create tab groups. So I've done that instead. And now I would load the left ones in, and then I would go to the right and I would load the right ones in. That does not give me nice over here, but it solves a problem. But it should be able to be done in one go. It just doesn't work. So no, I am in exactly the same boat as you. Right. Alex is liking this instead of transmit for websites. Well, that was something I was going to show next week. But yes, it can replace an FTP client. So I much prefer not to use an FTP client if possible, because I get grumpy, don't I?
You do, very.
The amount of information that you need to put into an FTP client to get it to connect, and then you have to manually force files down and tell it where to open them. No, leave it alone. Right, so what I'm going to show you here with this. And he says, if you can't, Elaine, there's little hope for lesser mortals with only one brain. Oh, one brain's usually enough. It's broken. It doesn't work. I don't know why it doesn't work. It just doesn't work. And life's too short. Oh, 5 screens for Renee and still not enough. Good grief. Must look like mission control. Right, okay. Hello, Patricia. Hello. Right, so what I'm going to show you here before I forget what I'm doing. Right, these drives are supposed to be twins of each other. So if I've been working during the day, I might want to think, have I copied them where they need to be? And there's two things this can do to help you with that. Right, the first is, and I added these buttons, okay, so up here you can customise the toolbar, and I added stuff that I thought was important. What's important to you may be different than me, but the buttons that we have up here are things like the connections were there, so that's how you create a new connection. So if I'm wanting to connect to a OneDrive, where are we? OneDrive, you choose that, you put in your username and password, and you're good to go. So that kind of button you've got up there. But I added this one, which is sync browsing. So when you have two drives or two folder structures and you are navigating, as long as there is a folder with the same name over on the second panel, it will navigate there. So instead of you having to double click demo and then going over to the right hand side and double clicking demo, you sync it. Right, if I move up there, you can see it moves up again. And if I go into all of the other folders, did I have anything in areas? I did. I had MacBites in there. And if we go into MacBites, I've got the stuff in there for MacBites. As I do this, you can see it's totally keeping in sync, which is just genius. Right, so that is syncing them. But in addition to that, if I go into there and I look at that and I think, those 4 files only exist on drive 1. Right. If I go in to the next button, which was available, there is a sync option. And what this is going to do is quickly, and it is quick, it does do it quickly look at this, and it's looking at my demo folder on my Extreme Pro. It's looking at the demo folder on the backup of the Extreme Pro, and it's saying, there's 4 files missing. Now, how it's doing that, it's working across with the information we have here. So it's going to synchronize items from left to right. Or you could do it from right to left, or you could do it both ways. There is an option to synchronize the subfolders, and you can synchronize hidden files if you want to. This is saying add items, which means if there are any missing in the destination, add them. There is also an option that says don't add empty folders. Now that's off because I would want them over there. Then I've got, do I want to update them? And if I do, what do I want to do with it? So do you want to update items with the older modification date or with different sizes? Just how do you want to do it? And do you want to delete orphaned files? Is something else. So those are the options we've got. What I'm going to do here, so we can see more of those options, is I'm going to copy that across, but I'm going to rename it. So it's archive demo. Right. And we'll go back and do the same again. So this time it's saying, because the right hand panel is accurate, is the one that's selected, it now has changed this from left to right, from left to right to right to left, because that's the active one. That's the way it thinks you want to go. Okay? But you could go that way, and you get something totally different in here with what it's doing. So if you go from left to right, it's going to take the 4 files on the left and it's going to copy them over on the right hand side, and that's what the plus symbols are for. The one archive demo has a red cross next to it, and that is telling you that that is not available on the left hand side, so it thinks you want it deleted. In this circumstance, I probably would, because I'm working with the drive on the left. The drive on the right is a backup, but sometimes that's not the case. Okay, so what you can do is say both ways. Now what it's showing you is that the archive demo is going to be added to the left hand side, and the other 4 files are going to be added to the right hand side. So let's synchronize, and we should end up with 5 files all over the place. Now, if we don't have that one there, so let's take that one away again, and we go back to synchronize this, you can see, because the left panel is the active one, it's suggesting deleting that on the right. if we wanted it the other way, that panel would be the focus panel, and it would add that back to the left. Most time here, if it's not in the right hand pane, I want it deleted. Now, for that, you need to have this toggled on. So if I toggle that off, it's saying, no, nothing to see. But that's not totally true. There is. But you need to enable the delete orphaned items to be able to see it. It's a safety measure. So if I synchronize at that point, we now have 4 files in here. Now that was just with one folder, but there is nothing to stop you going back up to the top level here, make the left pane the one that's selected, and go back into here and see what we've got. And that is saying that there was an archive folder, zip file, on the left hand side which does not exist on the right, and that is correct. I moved it, if you remember, and then I dragged it out of the way. So if I don't want that, I don't have to drill down to the folder containing these files. I can do it at root level and get the 2 drives to synchronize, which is what I've been doing. That way I don't need to install a load of other stuff. So let's synchronize that, and it's all synchronized. Okay, I think that is enough for 1 week with that. It can do more than that. We will finish it off next week. But do we have any questions at the moment?
We don't. No.
Patricia being late missed her birthday message. You need to watch your birthday message on catch up.
Gone back through the chat and seen them.
And Carol's PayPal account is now lighter. But Carol, think of how fast you'll be able to file stuff. Okay, so let me come out of there then. Go back into here. Oh, freebies. I promised these freebies a while back. Right, these are 2 courses of mine. Full courses dedicated to Pixelmator. I did them 9 years ago, and they were a charged for thing. There's Bunny the dog. Remember Bunny the dog?
Yeah.
Bunny the dog had something behind him, and I knocked it out, as you can see. Well, as you can't see, but you would if you watched the course. So the first course that there is Introduction to Pixelmator, and it's over 3 hours. It's got the basics, the tools, the shapes, layers, masks. To be honest, if you're watching a video, and that's the URL you need for it. If you're watching a video, whether it's Photoshop, Pixelmator or anything else, the techniques are fairly similar. So having mentioned it a couple of weeks back, people were saying, what's the link, because both these courses are now free. So the first one was an introduction to Pixelmator. The second one was getting advanced in Pixelmator, and that one was 2 hours. So basically 5 hours of free training. So that one was brushes, text treatments, the displacement was good in that one, I remember that. Retouching, compositing, you get the idea. So those are totally free. Don't know how long they'll be there, because they are older now. They are not for Pixelmator Pro, they are for Pixelmator Classic. But they are there, and they are both totally free. Right, so where's my mouse pointer disappeared to? Okay, we're coming up to you. Yeah. How ready are you?
I've got to press record, and then I am ready.
Right, well, we're almost there, so let's get that in the right place, and then you can see my... Oh, we're not seeing your desktop. We do like to keep an eye on your desktop, Mike.
No, you're seeing... my desktop's clear.
Yes, but, you know, we don't often see your desktop being... Oh, no, they can't see it yet. Okay, they can't see it yet. You'll have to leave that where it is, and I'll have to share your whatever. Okay. There we go. Now they can see it. There you go.
I have one file on the desktop, and that's the file I'm working with.
Oh, we're impressed. Where you going, Mike?
Right. What I'm going to do today is changing case in Excel. So, basically, converting to uppercase, converting to lowercase, converting to proper case, and setting it up so that the first letter of the cell is capitalized. And I'm going to show you 2 ways to do it. One is doing it with formulas, the other is doing it with Power Query. The formulas method would also apply to Google Sheets, although I don't think Simon's in, and numbers for anyone who uses numbers. So what I have here is a random list of names, and they're all in lowercase. and I need to convert them to uppercase. Now, many years ago, somebody came to me at work and said, Mike, I've got this list of 500 names somebody sent me in a spreadsheet. It's people who are going to be attending a conference, and I need to convert the names to uppercase so I can use the data as a source for a mail merge for name badges.
No, it's me. I'm trying to reply to somebody and I can't type on the screen, so I need my iPad.
Really?
It turns itself on, it wasn't me.
Do you want one of these things?
What? Well, that's a good idea, isn't it? No, it's fine.
Okay. So where were we? Lost my train of thought. Yes. So this person needed to create the name badges using the mail merge in Word, but using Excel as the data source. So I said, no, you don't have to sit there and type 500 names in capitals. We can convert them in a matter of seconds. So I will go up to B1 and I will use the upper function, equals upper, open brackets. And all I need to do is specify a single cell, in this case A1, because that's the cell with the text in it, close the brackets, press enter, and as if by magic it converts it to uppercase, and copy that down, and it will do the same for all the other cells. Now, I can't just copy and paste from B to A. I could leave B as it is, but I don't really want two copies of the names. So if I do a copy and go to A1, the problem if I hit paste is that I will end up with errors, because it would be pasting the formulas from B over the top of A. So I need to click the arrow next to paste on the Mac version. On the Windows version, it's just under the paste button, and choose paste values. Paste values will paste the results of the formula rather than the formula itself. And then I can delete what's in column B, and then what I have is what I need, which is the names in uppercase. So that's the upper function. The lower function, I thought I'd do something a little bit different, not just how to change text from upper to lowercase, because that's pretty straightforward once you know that it's the lower function and it works in the same way as the upper function. So what I have here is the list of the last 9 MacBites lives that we've done. So they're the names of them. And what I want to do is I want to create a URL, which is going to be macbites.co.uk/ and the event title. But on our website, the URLs have to be in lowercase, and we also can't have any spaces. So what I'm going to do here is put equals E1, then an ampersand, and then in double quotes a slash, then another ampersand, and then lower open brackets A2 close brackets. So let me talk through that. That will pick up what's in E1, which is the macbites.co.uk. The ampersand means join to, so it's going to join to macbites.co.uk a slash. I could have put the slash in E1 and that would have meant I wouldn't need to do it in the formula, and that then join that to the contents of A2 in lowercase, like that. As I said, if I go and put the slash in E2, you can now see I get double slash there, so I will edit the formula and get rid of that. So that actually makes it a little bit simpler. Take what's in E1 and add to that what's in A2, but you're converting A2 to lowercase. Before I copy this down, I need to make E1 absolute with the $signs, because that way when I copy it down it will keep the reference to E1. So copy that down. But we still have the spaces, because it's literally picking up what's in column A and converting it to lowercase. So what I will do here is edit the formula again And after the lower, I don't just want it to convert what's in A2 to lowercase, I want it to convert what's in A2 to lowercase, but substitute the spaces with dashes. So that will be the substitute function. And what I'm going to substitute is what's in A2, but I'm going to substitute the space with a dash. I need 2 closing brackets. So that is what I'm converting to lowercase. And that is saying look at what's in A2 and substitute a single space with a dash. And then there are no spaces in A2, so it doesn't put any dashes in. But if I copy that down, now you can see where there was a space. There's now a dash. Do we have any questions? I don't think we do we? No. Okay. So that is converting to lowercase. Proper case. Proper case is where the first letter of each word in the cell is capitalized. So that's a simple one. That's going to be very, very similar to the other ones we've done, but using the function called proper. So equals proper, in this case it's A1, and what it does is it capitalizes only the first letter of each word, and copy that down. As opposed to capitalize the first letter of the cell. So there's a subtle difference here. That's capitalizing the first letter of each word. This is going to capitalize the first letter of the cell. So just the A, just the T, just the B, and so on. So this is going to be slightly more complicated. What I'm going to do to save time is just copy the formula and paste it in here and show you the result, and then talk through the formula. So we can see there that what it's done is it's taken what's in A2, and now we only have one uppercase character, and it's the first one. Copy that down. Obviously it can't capitalize a 3, and also things like where's it gone, the Al Gore. Obviously you would want capital A, capital G, so that's going to be a little, well, it's going to be quite a bit more complicated. I don't even know if you could do it.
If it's any easier, every word is capitalised.
Every word is capitalised?
Well, on the posters, every word is capitalised.
Yeah, but I don't want every word capitalised.
Oh, you just want to be awkward.
Yeah. I want to, yeah.
There's always one.
It's a demo. Theatrical license.
Oh, okay then.
Right, so the formula, by the way, if you're interested, what that formula is doing is it is taking the first character of the cell and converting that to uppercase, and it's joining that to the rest of the cell entry, which is basically saying convert to lowercase everything from the second character to the last character. So that's what that is doing. Finally, I'm going to show you how you can do the same things with Power Query. So Power Query is this feature that's built into Excel. It's been in the Windows version for ages. It made its way to the Mac version earlier this year, and it's all to do with manipulating data. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to click in this data here, anywhere, I don't need to highlight it all, and go to Data, Get Data. Now, on the Mac version, it's a little bit more complicated if you want to get data from a range of cells in this spreadsheet. On the Windows version, it's really easy. You just say data from range. But here, you do Data, Get Data, Excel Workbook, click Browse, choose the name of the file that you've actually in, and click Get Data, and then click Next, and select the name of the sheet that contains the data, and click Load. Now, what I now need to do is I need to edit this query, because all this has done is made a copy of the data. So I'm going to go to Data, click the arrow against Get Data, and launch the query editor. And I'll just maximize that. And what I'm going to do first is I'm going to turn row 1 into a heading. So it's not detected that the first row of the original data is a heading. It thinks file name is a record of data. It thinks it's a so if these are actually the names of blog posts in or files, the PDF files that you can download from my website. So it thinks file name is actually the name of a PDF. So I'm going to go to transform use first row as headers. That's not really part of this demo, but I need to do that to get the column heading. What I actually want to do is I want to split this. What I actually want to do is I want to convert that all to, say, capitals. So I can select that column, and then I can say format uppercase, and that converts it to uppercase, or format lowercase, or format capitalize each word. What you can't do though from that format menu is you can't just have the first letter capitalized. So if you want just the first letter of the whole cell capitalized, what you need to do is select that column there and split the column by delimiter and choose space. And when I click OK, what that has done is that has now broken up that cell into multiple columns based on the position of the space. Then I need to select all these columns except the first one by doing click, shift click, and convert those to lowercase, and then select all the columns and merge them back together, separated with a space, and call the column file name. And once I've done that, come out of the query editor, and now we should have, there we go, everything is lowercase except the first letter.
If we could see it.
Yeah, I need to zoom in. Unfortunately, when you use Power Query and it generates a new set of data, even if I'd pre-formatted those cells to like 16 points, it goes back to the default font. So yeah, let me zoom in and you can see it. Okay, so that is it from me for tonight.
You've got a question.
Short but sweet. I have a question. Okay. Following my good influence, you've been working with tables. You're unsure how to transfer parts of the table to another table and update automatically. You can do that with the filter function and to call. I'll show you that next week, Peter. I'll do that as a demo.
Note for himself.
I'll do that as a demo next week. If I haven't already done a YouTube video on it, yeah, I'll make a note to do that next week. Okay, do we have any questions?
Other than that, I don't think we do.
Okay, cool. I will finish there then.
Right, I will clear Mike's stuff off my screen. Well, I say that. Can you stop fiddling?
I wasn't fiddling.
I've got no control. Oh, hello. Right, it's back. Okay, let's do that. And that. And we are good to go. Right. There we go. Right, so, as I mentioned very briefly at the beginning, I installed the Affinity apps. They were amongst the first apps that I installed, but I didn't transfer anything. I'd installed version 1, then I had the beta of version 2, then I installed version 2. So on my original iMac, things were a bit on the messy side, weren't they? Obviously, I do need certain things transferring across, but I've left it to share the pain with you. So I'm actually doing this for real. I am doing this for real. Now, I have a couple of steps that you might not need, but I will explain why I'm doing it. So we are sorting the Affinity apps out. So Publisher is the most important for me. So let's go into Publisher and see what I've done. Right. I have used Publisher on this machine for the last however long, right? 7 weeks. But I've not really configured that much. Some things can be transferred automatically, some more manually. I'll show you the official way. But for a start, I've got no templates in there at all. I did have a couple, I'm sure I did. But of more significance to me, just to show you what has been an absolute nightmare, if I go into the settings in here and I go to the shortcuts, this is the most important thing as far as I'm concerned. Now, this one is the default. I have not touched this at all. Unlike some apps where you can switch between them by having multiple sets loaded, in here you would load a new set and it would overwrite what's already there. Now, you can clear all the shortcuts. You can make Apple default shortcuts. You can make the serif defaults. What I tend to do, just to be absolutely certain that I've got this, is I save what I have as soon as I install it. And those to me are the default settings at the point that that was installed. So I hit save and then save that. Now, it always offers you in here Affinity shortcut. Absolutely useless. Because these are Publisher shortcuts. Plural. It's default into the Documents folder, which is definitely not where I want it to be. I would put this, I have a system of where to put this and why. So in Dropbox, I don't have to think, where should this go? So when Annie's saying about being organised, part of that is not just having a place to put it, but actually knowing where that place is. So to make it absolutely simple, if it's to do with an application, it's going to be in application support. It's nothing to do with whether it's for a particular project or is it an area, is it a resource, is it the archives? No, it's not. You might think it's a resource, but it's to do with an application, so it might as well go in the application support. Then in here I have Affinity apps, I have Designer, Photo and Publisher. Now obviously this is shortcuts for Publisher. So you've got a couple of places to put that. You could put it in application Affinity apps if you decided to have shortcuts in there. But because it's per app, and this is for Publisher, if I go into Publisher, this has everything for Publisher. It has my templates, it's got my assets, it's got my fonts, an archive of data, my stuff for demos, Mike's stuff, and that is my secrets guides that I've put in there. So in here, I'd have to think about where should this go. Now, the one thing I don't have in here is a folder for shortcuts. So that would be a good time to create one. And I spelt that wrong, didn't I? Oh, crying out loud, woman. Or did I? No, I didn't. It sorted itself. Right. No, it didn't. Oh, no. Right, the name's right, but that's not right. So I'm going to have to go up a level and fix that, aren't I? Luckily, in here, I can rename because I've got default folder, which is always handy. If it were working, are you going to let me do it? Why did I think there was a C in it? Crying out loud. Right, so the name that I've specified for the file is going in the shortcuts folder. Now the thing is that enough? They suggested Affinity shortcut. No, it's not. And this doesn't tell me what set of shortcuts. So at the end, I would need a default to know these were the default shortcuts. And this is something that you should be thinking about doing on at least a monthly basis. But now I know that they are my default ones. So to give you an idea of what's missing and has been driving me insane, we've got Design Persona and there's no shortcut. Photo Persona, no shortcut. There's some tools that don't have a shortcut. So at that point, I have made a backup, and the reason that I've made a backup is because sometimes if I'm demonstrating to people, they will have the default shortcuts and I need to switch mine back to the default. But I also need to have my own set. So this time I'm going to load it, and I'm not loading it from that folder. I am loading it from in here where I've got all my stuff. So these are my shortcuts, right? And that does not look good. Okay, right. I think I have a Dropbox issue in terms of they're not local and I need them to be local. So let me grab the whole lot and make them available offline. That should take a couple of seconds because they're tiny. And go back and load them. Right, they're all there. So I want to load it in my Affinity Publisher shortcuts. So these I have backed up on another machine. So I'm going to open that and it will load it in. And in there I will now have the tools that have got the shortcuts that I need. So the next step for me, because these were not backed up in the correct location, I would do a save of them. And I'm not going to my working folder here, I'm going to the folder that I put everything in, which is Application Support, and in this case Publisher, and in this case Shortcuts. And again, it's offered me Affinity Shortcut, not useful. So I will go in and make sure that I know that these are for Publisher, and this time they are my defaults, not the defaults. And now they are safely backed up. I would then rinse and repeat that with the other apps. So that happens to be the shortcut setup. Now, I hadn't done that much with this app at all. With some of the others, I may have done more. So, I'm going to lose this. Let's say I wanted to go and do that for Designer. So, I could open Designer and we could have a look at it. But how would I know what changes I'd made? Because when I'm training somebody, they are probably going to be using this in a fairly basic way, and they will not have made any changes. I can tell straight off, I think this is wider than it needs to be. I think I opened it because I had very long layer names in it. I have no idea if these are the panels that would be available on a default install. I have no idea. So here is what I do. Come out of it completely. Right, if I open that and I start typing Designer and I wait for it to get enough of the app there, I'm not going to press enter. I am going to hold down the control key and double click it instead. That does something entirely different, which is this. You only really want to be doing this in the event of a calamity, or, like me, you want to deliberately set this back to the default. Right, this is the clear user data option, and you only get this by holding the control key down when you are starting any of the 3 apps. The top half of it is relating to data for the app in question. So you can see it's in the top left saying Affinity Designer. The bottom half is all the Affinity 2 apps. So if you did want to reset them all, which actually pretty much I do, but that would be incredibly unusual. But if you've got something that's not working correctly, this is a really good way to fix it. Now, you can then get incredibly granular. Do you want to clear the user defaults? Do you want to restore the windows and the documents? Do you want to reset the studio? You can then reset the most recent documents, the file export presets, etc. Now, I definitely do not want to reset those because I know I had to create those properly. But I would probably go through this and put ticks in all the boxes and reset it. This is how I would get back to what my users are looking at. Now, I've never had to do this because as soon as I install it, I make a backup. But this time, for your benefit, I haven't. So I'm going to hit clear. It will then carry on loading Affinity Designer. You know that that has worked because if this was a completely clean install of Affinity Designer, the window, not the new document window, but the full window behind it, does not go full screen. That is something you have probably done. So at that stage, I know I am pretty okay with this, that is a default. So I would set it up there. You can see this side has narrowed considerably. I had 4 panels open here and now it's only got 3. So that is reset to the default. Now, what do I do at that point? Well, I would go in and save my shortcuts. So I would go into the settings I would go to shortcuts, I would save the shortcuts, I would put those in the correct folder, so application support, in there, keyboard shortcuts. I do not have a defaults in there, so I will put those in. Designer shortcuts dash defaults, and I can always return to that. What else do I need to make a backup of at this point? Well, the most important thing when I'm training somebody is that I can get back to this default interface without having to nuke everything, because I wouldn't want to nuke brushes and settings and things like that. I can do that really easily by going to Window and Studio, and before I do anything else, add a preset. And this one would just be default, and that would just live there. And I could always get back to this. One of the things I do down there is I open up snapshots. Don't I, Mike? For your posters.
Yes.
So I've got this extra panel down there. The other thing that I do is I open up the assets, and that is on the left-hand side here. I also have in there my... Where have we gone? Is that open somewhere else? Symbols. So while the symbols is opening there, that's not where I have it. So I would put that over there. The assets and symbols would go together. That would be my default. So I go back to the window, back to Studio, and in here add a preset. And this one would be EKG default. And I may update that as we go along. Right? Now I can switch between them. So I go back into Studio. If I'm training somebody, I go back to that view. You can see I've got no snapshot in the lower right-hand corner. But as soon as I finish training, I go back into here, I switch my defaults on, and I'm good to go. Now, I probably would make a few more changes than that, but that's enough to be getting on with. Right. So at that point, we've reset everything. We have the shortcut keys dealt with. We have a backup of the default. We have a backup of ours. And we've got the workspaces dealt with. There is still a lot of other stuff to go. One of the big things is the assets. So if we look in here, we have, these I must have added somewhere. I think I probably did. Right, but normally of the default, there's nothing actually there. Now what I do have is a range of assets. So if we have a look what's in the folder there, we have Affinity assets. Now these assets were exported from my machine. So previously I'd created the calendar creation kit, I'd done some demo assets. I do use the MacBites assets, which has been a pain with the posters, you know, because I haven't had them installed. So it's been copy and paste. So there's MacBites assets, there's assets for Mike, there's my own personal branding stuff, and some stuff for tutorials. So these have been saved from my iMac. I exported each individual one, and I've got my assets folders. Assets collections. This is what I need to do to bring them in. Now at this stage, I happen to be in Designer. But if I go in here, I can create new categories, but I don't need to because I've already exported them. So all I need to do is to import the assets. So I'm going to my training data in here. Let's bring the MacBites ones in. So click to open that, and there they are. Now that is not the view that I particularly have in there. I have the list view, show as list, so I can actually see them and read them. Now you will notice, or you may notice, that in version 2, not only do you have the name of the assets, but you also have the little chain icon. So if I open up Publisher, and we go into there, and I haven't got any templates, but I will create a new file, and I click on the Assets panel, I do have my default up there, but I also have MacBites. And that is what the chain means. So if we look at these, demo, no link icon. Default, no link icon. But this one wasn't even installed in Publisher. It was installed in Designer. But the link icon means that they are linked together, and that's why they have appeared in here. So again, I would change that to show as list. Might need that a little bit wider than that. And now I've got them in there and I'm good to go with that. So I would have access to all of those assets. So it doesn't really matter in here. If I go into Publisher rather than Designer, and I do an import assets, and go back to the folder where they were, and this time I bring in my personal branding ones. We'll open that up. You can see it says personal branding. These are my sidebars. Then I've got sidebars with shadow. Then I've got signatures in different colours. I've got my Affinity branding, and this is dark to light or light to dark, and I've got icons in here and all kinds of stuff that I use repeatedly. You'll notice that it also has the link icon. So if we get rid of Publisher and we go back into Designer and we click next to that, the personal branding ones have been installed in here as well. So if you have these assets in one app, you can back them up from one app. You do not need to go into the multiple apps and back them up each time, because version 2 has this linked thing. Right, so that's how we get the assets in there. You may think some of these are simple. Oh, it gets more complicated. Right, one thing that I like to do in Designer is when I'm making a new file, I want to see some templates. And you can see we have no templates yet. Now, the brilliant way that they have implemented this is that you do not need to import your templates. You just refer to them. So what that means is, if I show you in the Finder, we have a question. What? I don't understand how you get to this. Link it. It's automatic. It's doing it automatically. So if we go into Publisher, where have you gone? Where's Publisher disappeared to? There we go. The link means it's linked. So if, for example, I decided that I don't need the personal branding in here, right? If I come to it and I say delete category, it is going to come up and say, are you sure? Do you want to delete it from just this app, or do you want to delete it from all apps? So there is a linking going on automatically when you import the stuff. So that is just a version 2 feature. That is what is happening. And the idea is, and it is a great idea, because if you are working, I mean, I know you could have these as assets in just Publisher, and then you could Studio Link to the other apps, but come back to Publisher for these. But you don't want to have to keep multiple assets, 3 sets of them in 3 different apps up to date. And that is why they provided the ability to link them. So I don't want to delete that. Right, so we were looking at templates, weren't we? So I'm going to show you actually how I do this. So this is application support. Again, I've got my Affinity apps and I've got each individual app. So we're going to be looking at Designer. These folders are working folders. That's why they don't start with an underscore. They start with an underscore, so they're pushed to the top. But in here, I have my templates. Under my templates, you'll see I have generic templates, MacBites templates, templates for mic, I've got YouTube templates, and I've got stuff that's retired. All you need to do from the app is point it to the templates that you want it to look at. So I think inside the MacBites ones, I've got some that are no longer in use, so they should be in retired. But these 4 templates I use all the time. You don't install these in terms of moving them anywhere. You refer to them where they are, which is great, because it means that if I update one of these templates, it updates on Dropbox, and that updates it on every machine I have Affinity installed on. So all I need to do is point to that file. So in here, where you've got your templates, you'll see there are no templates right now. But down here, you are able to point to them. So I'm going to go over there, and you can see that those are the folders. And I'm particularly interested in the MacBites one, so let's choose that. What that does is load in the MacBites folder up here and gives you the 4 templates that were inside it. Now, before you think, if you try this, you might be saying to yourself, just a minute, I've not got the pretty thumbnails. The pretty thumbnails were a dirty hack a while back, weren't they? A long while back. it gives you a preview of the template. Now, you can see with these after hours ones that there are multiple artboards, so it gives you that kind of preview. But for MacBites and for MacBites Live, I've taken the extra step to create a fake thumbnail. So if I make one of those, you can actually see in here, that just says template, and I just delete it, and I delete the object, and that's what's behind it. But that was ugly as sin in the template window. That's why I didn't want that there. So that was why I did it. And then all you need to do is to go back and add the others that you want. So in the templates in here, we've got MacBites. Let's have a look what else I want. So we'll go up a level in there to templates, and let's add the YouTube ones. So I've got 3 in there to add. And I'm thinking at this point, all of those need to be made available offline as well, because they are in Dropbox. So you can see the little blue Dropbox thing here synchronizing, proving the point that I have not done this before on this machine. Right, so this one is a YouTube channel header, and this one is the YouTube posters. And now they are in that folder, and there is my MacBite stuff. But as I said, the thing here is this will automatically update. If I added more, they would automatically appear. If I took one away, it would disappear. So they are in Dropbox. Now there's some other stuff that's not quite as clear cut as that. So we've looked at assets, we've looked at templates, we've looked at shortcut keys, we've looked at workspaces. There are a couple of things that I like to work on in here. So let's just get a blank file. One thing that drives me insane is when I'm adding text, I probably in there want a particular font. So let's go over here, and I would probably want one of my cartoon fonts. But I've got this endless list. So if I find the one like this one that I use a lot, and I make that a favourite by putting the heart in it, and I have a couple of others like that, and I probably want use Trajan. So let's go up there and choose Trajan. Go on, let me sort it. Trajan. Right. I can favourite that. Now, benefit of doing that is, in here when you go to choose a font, instead of looking at all of them, you have the option to look at recent, ones that are used in this document, and my favourite, which is favourites, which while I've got a lot of fonts installed, I probably am going to be using between 10 to 12 frequently. So just set your favourites. Again, that is something that you have to do in here. Right. What else have I got in there? So we've done our favourites. You obviously, with fonts, if they're standard fonts, you need to install them at system level. But I'm having problems with that on Ventura, which means as soon as I install a font, I've got to reboot for it to be there. That has actually put me off installing a font, trust me. For 16 years, I've been used to just dragging and dropping a font and it's immediately available, and it is no longer the case. No doubt it's Timmy and his security, but that's a bit of an issue. So that would have to be at system level. There are a couple of other things here as well. So assets, templates, fonts, you name it, we've done it. But there's a couple of other things that you may not even think about. So let's have a look at those. We have different colour palettes. I have done hours of a session on this. It's at least 2.5 hours long. But in here you can see you also have colours, gradients and greys. And your colours, gradients and greys also have the link icon. So they are linked between apps. You then have these here. And these with the monitor icon, they are system fonts. You can indeed only have one set of favourite fonts. It would be good if you could have font sets. But I think we're going to have to wait a bit until Apple either come to their senses or we accept that we're going to have to reboot to install a font. There are font managers. The font managers I've tried don't work. They are not activating the fonts. When you install a font or you activate a font, it looks like it's there and it looks like it's working, but it's not. You've got to reboot with Ventura to make it work. It's infuriating. Absolutely infuriating. Right, so these are system palettes. And the ones at the bottom are your Pantone palettes. There's also another type of palette on here. What you would have here is you could have a document palette, but the ones I'm interested in are these that we have in here. They are coming from the system. So let's get rid of that. Don't need that. And I will show you those. Let me move back up. So where's my data? Right. So what I've done on other machines is I have backed up my system-wide colour palettes. They are CLRs, Apple Colour List. And you can back that up. It's working for Renee. I've not actually done it from Eagle. I've not done it from Eagle. I have done it from MediaPlace. That didn't work. And I've done the font book thing and I've done it manually and it just doesn't work. Right. So I've got these colour palettes. These you can back up yourself. And I would suggest it's worthwhile backing them up at least every couple of weeks. So in here, if you go to Go and hold down the Option key and go to Library. And in there you will see colours. And there's two different things in here. So you have CLR files and you have this plist file. Now you do have to be careful. You have to know which ones are which. So for instance, this Scrivener file, Scrivener installed it. I should not touch it. If I delete that, Scrivener's going to get really grumpy. It's going to be looking for something that's not there. But these ones, I should be able to do what I like with them. So I am going in there to compress them. These are the ones that are on this machine. You can see they're incredibly tiny. I will put that out of the way and I will just delete them. They are gone. Right, what you see in here is available system-wide. They are system-wide, available everywhere. So let's go into Designer. Though I did close Designer down. We will create that. We will go over here. And you will see I have the WebSafe, the System, Scrivener, Crayons and Apple. But what I don't have is the MacBites ones anymore. Oh, Peter doesn't have that problem with Catalina. No, I didn't have that problem with Catalina. I've never had that problem until I moved to this machine. And now it's got a little mind of its own. So the ones, the MacBites ones, not there. The Office ones, not there. These are at system level. So if they're not there on the system, they're not going to be there in your Affinity apps. So, very easy to fix that. These were the ones I copied from the other machine. All you need to do is drag and drop into the colours folder. That's it. Once you go back in here, with this is why they're worth backing up onto Dropbox. Right, if I go into there and I go back to my colours, now you can see I've got MacBites, I've got Microsoft, I've got Microsoft Office, and I've got Notion. So when I'm making Notion icons, that's when that comes in handy. I can go straight to my Notion palette in there, and these are the standard Notion colours. So if I want to create something that matches those, I can do that. That's what it's there for. You can, of course, then with these, change them from system palettes. You can add it as a document palette, and that way it travels with your document, so you could send it to somebody who's using Affinity on Windows and they would have access to the same colours. Now there's one more thing with the colours, when you're working with the colours, less significant for the Affinity apps, but still kind of cool. If we come out of there totally, we don't want to save that, and we go into Keynote. So any app, it doesn't matter. Keynote, PowerPoint, any app, it doesn't matter. But we'll just choose one of these and we'll just get a new basic white one. And we will create a blank slide. Right. So in here, when I'm working with shapes, colours, whatever, there we go. You can either use the colours that are styles, or you can use a set colour. So you can go to Colour Fill. You can go in there and you can see all of these, but you can also bring up the colour palette dialog. And in here you have access to all of the same things. So if you wanted the Notion ones, you've got access in there to the Notion ones. Now, while we're looking at this, there's one more thing, which is you have the colour car park at the bottom. And the colour car park, you can add colours to it. So if I want to make this red, I can drag that over here and I can add it to it. Or if I wanted the green one, I can add that to it. And it's a great way to work with multiple colours, but they're not really saved anywhere particularly that make it easy to back it up. You can back these up, you just need to know how. The other issue you've got is if you try and go to it, how do you clear them? There's no delete option. So Apple have made a very powerful tool in the colour palette dialog, but not actually added features like how do I clear it. So this is what you would need to do. If you're moving from one machine to another and you want to bring these colours with you, then you just need to know where they are. So let's come out of there. We're going to go back in a second. But this is my username, library, colours. That plist contains the colours. So if we look at it, it's just a text file. You can see in there it has entries that are in XML format for the colours. So what I would do with that to back it up is just make an archive of it, compress that. They are now backed up. So I would move that somewhere out of the way. And if I want to lose all of those colours that are in the bottom half of the colour car park, those colour wells, difficult to empty, but not if you just do that. That's gone to the bin to make sure we'll empty the trash. It's gone. Now we'll do exactly the same again. We will not go to Keyboard Maestro, that would be ridiculous. We will go to Keynote. We'll make a new file. Based on that one, get a new blank slide. We will add a shape and we will go and bring up the colours. And the colour car parks, the colour wells at the bottom, are completely empty. So that is how you reset it. If you want, I find myself doing that when I'm working with odd colours, and then when I've made my colour decisions, I want to put them in a proper colour palette. But half of this is in the system and half of it is in the Affinity apps. So you could transfer everything from your Affinity apps, but if you don't bring your colour palette colours with you, you will not have them available in the Affinity apps. They need to be done separately, but it can be done, as you have seen. So do we have any questions on that?
We have one question from Patricia. I have version 2, but I started putting assets in by creating a category, then subcategory, but no links appear at all.
You probably started putting them in what was already there, and that one probably wasn't linked. So it gets the icon when you import something. So the best bet would be to export everything you've got, then delete it and then re-import it. And I think you'll find they'll be there. If you don't want to delete them, then export them first, then import them. But when you import them, call it something else. And it should automatically then have the link icon. And it will be installed in all of the apps. Do we have anything else?
No, that was it.
Okay, I'm following along here. No, I have no idea why it's doing that with me. I don't know if it's a safety thing with it being the Mac Studio. No idea. But I can guarantee you, everything looks like they're working. But they're not. They're not available to select. I will have to investigate. Oh, can you imagine putting a support ticket into Apple? I don't think Timmy would let me. I'm sure
No.
I'm blacklisted.
You're on a blacklist.
Yeah, I probably am on a blacklist. I'm probably on every blacklist Timmy's got. Right, okay then. So that was what I thought I would show you. So, at least now I'll be able to have all of my shortcuts. And it will in here, at the moment you can see in there, that is still my library, and now I don't have a plist file. I don't have a plist file, not because I deleted the thing, but I didn't put anything in the colour wells. As soon as you put something in the colour wells, that plist appears. And that's the file that you need to back up if you are relying on those colour wells to store colour. I suggest you don't rely on those. I think they're more of a work in progress thing than anything else. The colour blue that I had in there was my desktop blue. And for reasons best known to itself, it didn't like my desktop blue. It gave me black menus and I wanted white ones. So I had to change the blue. So that's why that blue was in there, because I was playing around with different blues until I got one where I had white menus, because I'm picky like that, aren't I, Mike? Just saying. Right, okay then. In that case, let's go into here. If you want to back these things up wholesale, there's a lot of paths available. I suggest you take screenshots and then just have an investigation. But the Affinity apps, if you've bought them from Affinity directly, you will find your data on a Mac in Library Application Support Affinity app/user. They are the direct versions from Affinity. If you bought from the App Store, they're in a different place. This is just rules in the App Store. So it's library containers, com.seriflabs.affinity app, and then a load more after it. This is what I'm saying. Take a screenshot. If you bought it in the App Store and you are still using the version of the apps that you installed on Big Sur, they're somewhere else. This is ludicrous. Why isn't there just one place? But if you installed it on Big Sur, they will be in a different place. So those are the 3 places you basically need to look. If you are on Windows and it is from Affinity directly, you will find them at those locations. So it's your app data folder, Affinity, name of the app. Now they were version 1, they'll now be version 2, and then your user folder. But if you got it from the Windows Store, they are also in a different place. So there's 5 different places depending on which version you've got. Sorry about that, wasn't my idea. I would never have done that. That's just confusing. But take a screenshot of each one and work out which ones you've got, and that's where you'll find the stuff. Okay, so what do we have coming up? Our next meeting, folks, is the Apple event on Tuesday, which is called Wanderlust. Are we thinking he just wants to get access to our money? Because I'm thinking that's more than likely.
Something like that.
It is Tuesday, and it is 5 p.m. UK time. If you've never attended, we start an hour before Apple do. If we have live audio on MacBites FM, and we also have live chat. At showtime, we broadcast the audio of the event. So if you don't have any other access, at least you can listen to it. Feel free to mute our audio, though, while the event's on, because you're probably watching on Apple TV or somewhere else. Has the bed arrived yet, Renee? I've just got this vision of Renee lying in a prone position, enjoying watching the event in that bed with a telly in front of him. If that ever does happen, Renee, I need pictures. Lots of them. So however you're watching it, you will still be able to chat. We always say it wouldn't be the same without you, so do join us. You will find that at macbites.fm on Tuesday at 5 o'clock. You can be guaranteed our inimitable coverage, which means me full of Timmy snark, doesn't it?
True.
He'll want money, I'm telling you. Right, and we are back next week, 15th of September. How is it the middle of September in this heat?
I don't know.
It feels like the middle of July in the Med.
It's nearly Christmas.
Oh, yes, it was 87 days, wasn't it? So it's 86, 85, 84 days until we break up for Christmas. It's not 84 days to Christmas, we're breaking up early. But still, it's not long.
2 weeks for the bed.
Oh, they've just missed it. How could they? How could they? We'll have to wait. Well, we'll have to have fingers crossed for an autumn Apple event. And failing that, it could be as late as WWDC next year. No, I'm going to need pictures before then. Put a video on, Renee, of an after hours and then take some pickies. Or get Mrs. Renee to do it. So, on demand, youtube.com/ElaineGiles. You will find there is an after hours playlist. You can get to that at macbites.co.uk/after hours dash. No, after hours playlist. No dash. After hours playlist. Didn't use your dashy thing, did we? And of course, we love you. If you love us, can you support the channel? Best thing you can do is actually subscribe, but at least give the video a like, and then when you've done that, subscribe. And make sure you hit the notification bell, and then whenever we go live, you won't miss it. There is also news from me at elainegiles.com/VIP. And the one that you must be subscribed to for the Apple event, we need to send a mail about that, you know. And more importantly, we're gearing up for Advent. We've been gearing up since July. Not getting there very fast, are we? But it's happening. So that you will find at macbites.co.uk/macbites-mail. That's where the dash came in. And there was a dash, just the wrong URL. And of course, there's Slack, where we carry on the conversation. If you would like to join us and you are not already a member, you need to go to macbites.co.uk/join Slack. If you are already a member, you can get straight in there at macbites.co.uk/Slack. And that is it for the moment. So do we have any questions? I am now looking for questions. Right. I can't see the chat. I need to deal with that, don't I?
All
Now
the
I can see
questions
the
have been dealt with.
Oh, have they?
But
Okay.
Kim wants private lessons for the application support folder.
It is naughty, isn't it? It's bad, that. I wish they made that easier.
But she also wants video of the bed going up and down.
Oh, definitely. This has got to be seen to be believed. I mean, I know we've seen pickies, but it's not quite the same. I mean, it looked amazing. But I don't think it's the same as actually having Renee sat on it. Is there a remote control to make the thing? There must be. It's not a crank handle, is it? Oh, I've got to see this. It's got to be done, Renee. Do you fancy doing an unboxing video? That'd be amazing. Oh, that would probably be the biggest box ever unboxed, wouldn't it? I think it would, you know.
Yeah.
Yeah. The last time... Oh, we had a funny story, didn't we, with our bed, years and years ago. We went to IKEA and we were buying this bed. It was a beautiful, like, white wooden bed. It was amazing. Loved it. So we got the bed, didn't we? But we didn't get anything with it. We got a mattress and we got the bed, and that was it. So... You know how you carry a little card round and you give it to them at the checkout and then they bill you and then you go and wait for it to come out. So we weren't in a particular rush. We probably had some, what they're there, reindeer balls or whatever they are. Oh, I know, it'd be dime bars with you, wouldn't it?
Dime bars and meatballs.
Meatballs, there you go. So we finally headed over with our little receipt to the pickup area and we parked up outside ready and there was loads of stuff there, all with different names on it. And there was this stack of stuff. There was like cardboard boxes, all kinds of stuff. And I looked at it and I said, oh, thankfully that's not ours. And then Mike looked at the number and he said, it is. How we got that into the car, I have no idea. People were laughing at us on the motorway because literally, Mike, you were driving, weren't you? And I was in the passenger seat. Good job we didn't take the dog. And our noses were up against the glass. I do not know how we got all of that into the car. Having it delivered would have been a grand idea on reflection.
True.
Yeah, it would. That would have been a much better idea. I'm presuming Renee is not stupid enough to go and pick it up himself and try and assemble it. But I still think we definitely need an unboxing. Absolutely we do.
You said it'll put a video on Slack.
Excellent. Excellent. I can't wait for that. It's kind of a cool thing. If we ever watch the TV, it's like one football match every now and then, isn't it? Oh, there is an England match on, though. They're playing Scotland, so that'll probably end in a bloodbath. You know what it's like. But that's next week. So, actually, is it the same day as the...
Yes, it's Tuesday.
Oh, for crying out loud.
It's 7:45.
For crying... Oh, really?
Yeah.
Honestly, when was the last time we played Scotland? 15 years ago?
No.
Oh, that's annoying. That's very, very annoying. But never mind. Right, so do we have no questions at all?
No.
Oh, let's see what temperature my machine is. Let's have a look. 0 drop frames running at 2.3%. And let's touch the machine. It's fairly cool. I mean, it's not cold, but it's fairly
we've got
cool.
a question.
Oh, do we have a question?
Yes.
I can't see that question.
Which video to catch up on regarding default folder 10?
Default folder 10.
Have you done default folder 10?
There isn't a default folder 10. Default folder 6 and it's not out yet. There's a 5.
Mrs. Yarnell's put default folder X.
Oh, right, yes, yes, but that doesn't mean 10. It means it means version 5, Mike. I did do a default folder one. Let me find it.
X means 5.
X means it's part of the name. You're just getting confused here.
I'm using Roman numerals.
Right, let me see if I can find it. Because we know the Notion stuff is useless. Is default folder one word?
No.
Really?
Andrew T. Andrew Caddick wants to know, what episode did we talk about Cloud Mounter?
Now Cloud Mounter's not as simple as it used to be, so hold that thought while I try and find this. I do have 2 of these, so let's have a look there. Is it that one? Oh, good grief. It was after hours 38.
And Mrs. Yarnold thought the X was 10 as well.
No, it's version 5 and version 6 is in beta. But default folder is fabulous. If we've not covered it since episode 38. Put it on the list, Mike. Add it as a to-do. There is a new version currently in beta. It's pretty similar, but it has added a couple of nice features, and that's the one that I'm using. I needed to use that one. I'm not sure if the older one was native silicon, but this beta one is native silicon, and it's been fairly... It's not crashed and burnt, let's put it like that. So it's been all right. It has been okay. So that was episode 38. Right, Cloud Mounter, different saga. Right, loved Cloud Mounter, used it all the time. Let's have a look here. When did we last do that? There we go. That was, oh good grief. We're going back in time here. Episode 3. Episode 3, which was the 7th of December 2018. I would say time to look at it again.
Was that with the Donald Trump?
No, that was episode 2.
Oh.
2 was the Donald toilet, the Donald Trump toilet brush. It was brilliant. No, right. I've used Cloud Mounter for years. Before that, I used to use Expand Drive, and it was fabulous. Absolutely loved it. But they brought out a new version. I think it was version 4. And Night Renee, there is an issue with it. When you bought it, you got a lifetime license, but then they brought out a new version, and this new version is subscription. So it's freemium. I hate freemium. Freemium's worse than subscription, because what they've done is, whereas you had, say, 6 different types of connections, they've taken that away. Some of that has gone into the subscription, but previously it was free and you bought a lifetime license. So I got grumpy and I stopped using it. Now, what I've done as an alternative is ForkLift. So I would be able to do that with ForkLift. It's not quite the same, but it would do what I wanted it to do. So while Cloud Mounter was a great solution and it was more stable than Expand Drive, I didn't like the way they did the last update that is then subscription. Not after you've sold somebody a lifetime license. Right, good night, good night. I see folk heading off. We will be heading off shortly too.
Is CyberMount a viable alternative?
Haven't actually looked at it, so let's have a look, quick look. I decided that it was good enough, but let's have a look. I don't think that's the right one at all, is it? Is it 2 words? No, hang on. Let's try macOS. Right. Let's have a look. Not seeing it. I'm seeing Mountain Duck. I will have a look and let you know. I mean, there's nothing wrong with Cloud Mounter. It's just more than a bit annoying that they've made it that what you had you don't have anymore. That's the worst kind of subscription. The absolute worst kind. It could... There's Mountain Duck. Is it that one?
Says he's not sure what it's called.
It could be Mountain Duck you're referring to. That is very similar. The icons look the same, the lot, and I think it isn't that from the same people that do CyberDuck, and it works on Mac and Windows. And yeah, it looks like it could be Mountain Duck, which I haven't tried yet. So I will have a look at it and let you know. When they're working, they're all great. It's just that sometimes something changes and then one of them will stop working, and then you have to move to the other one and then back again. I don't mind paying a subscription, but I don't like the bait and switch. If you sell me a lifetime license that has 11 features, you cannot take that away and give me 3 features. That's just ludicrous. But CyberDuck's a really good app. I think that's free, isn't it? With a donation. Yeah, I remember donating, so I'm sure it is. But I think you find it's Mountain Duck. Depends what the particular use case is. I mean, in my case, I have specific locations, either FTP or S3. On odd occasions, it might be OneDrive to make a backup. If you need that open all the time, then you don't want to be opening and closing ForkLift. And maybe you want to work directly with the files, in which case one of these is probably a better bet. I will take a look at it and tell you what to think. Right, have a wonderful birthday tomorrow, Patience. And Patricia. I get confused with the P's. It's because they start with the same letters. But I had it right on the slide, I did. So have a fabulous day. I'm thinking ice cream. I know it's ludicrous o'clock, but I'm that hot and I'm about to steal the fan off the computer. Or put the bigger one on.
I was going to say.
Yeah, if I put the bigger one on. Oh, yes. T-shirt's sticking to me, honestly.
Should we put it on now to see if they can hear it?
Tell you what, we'll turn the fan on, right? You tell us if you can hear it. I'm sure you will. Let it get up to full power. That's it at about full power. So you can probably still hear me, but there's probably a lot of background noise there. But oh, I am cool. I am loving that. Wish I could have had that on all night. Oh. I'm going to start making noises that shouldn't be heard on YouTube at this rate. That's so good. That is so good. So let us know in the chat if you can hear it and how bad it is. I'm wondering if it could be positioned behind the microphone, but not without moving everything else, I don't think. So how bad is it, Mike?
It's bearable.
It's bearable. Okay. We'll leave it at bearable then. Right, so you'll hear that until I turn the audio off, at which point it'll go blessed quiet. Oh, Kim could do with that. The red over I was flying through. Well, it is an industrial fan. I'll take a picture of it, Peter, and show you next week. And that's only on one. It goes higher than that. It's got 3 levels. But I won't say it made much of a noise, Mike, but my watch started complaining that I was in a noisy environment.
Oh.
And I remember thinking, I'm in bed. It's quiet. And then I thought, oh, it's the fan it's complaining about. There you go. But we need to be cool, so what can I say? Anyway, I will say good night from me.
And good night from me.
And we will both see you next time. Stay safe, guys.